buyer initial consultation. I cover some of the things. They have certain things that are required by HUD requirement that aren't really my favorite things to talk about, but it's got to meet like their minimum standards on a national level. So some of it doesn't even seem that important or relevant to what a buyer should need to know. But I'd say about 75% of it is stuff that I would actually cover on an initial meeting with the buyer. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. How are you doing, Yvette? Can we hear you?
Yeah, now I can. My computer audio isn't working, so I have to call in to hear you guys these days.
Really? Okay. All right. I know Amy wanted to hop on, so I haven't seen anything yet. Let's see, participants. But we're going to get going just because we're not going to have as much time as we normally would for today. So, but it's good seeing you, Jody and Yvette. And yeah, I guess anything in particular before I start that would be helpful to cover in the time that we do have before the actual homebuyer class starts?
Whatever you guys want is good with me.
Okay. Anything, Jody, that you would like to cover?
No, I'm just here for whatever any insight you have.
Okay. Well, what we'll do and what we'll talk about then is we'll talk about what you would do if you have an initial buyer or a prospective buyer or somebody who's thinking about purchasing, and kind of walk through the process. And if you're comfortable sharing, what do you typically do if you're referred somebody who's thinking about purchasing, they've never purchased before, and what are kind of the steps of what is important to you, with that particular buyer, Jody?
Oh man, I'm like Yvette. I don't like being put on the spot like that.
Well, it's just for us, so it's all good. But there is no right or wrong answer. It's just to find what you've done in the past, as well as we always want to think about how can we fine tune the process. Are there different things that we could do that may be more effective to not just capturing a buyer, or a buyer wants to be your client, but even more so, just a certain system or a process that works and that eventually leads to buyers wanting to work with you as well. So there's different types of buyers. You got internet lead buyers, you have referrals from past clients, you have somebody who you could have just met at the supermarket or at a baseball game or whatever, and they hear you're in real estate. It could be through social media. So there's all different places that somebody can find out that you're an agent, they're thinking about buying a house. So at each one could be a little bit different in the process, but what I have found that is if you have some type of process in place, you know if somebody's serious or not, and you also know that you're leading them towards the right direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I did last Friday.
Okay. Jody, do you feel comfortable sharing it? If not, we can move.
Well, I usually start asking, like, have they been pre-qualified yet?
Okay, that's good.
Because a lot of this can be a waste of time if they haven't even done that step. I
Right.
mean, not a waste of time talking to them, but like showing them homes or finding out what their budget is, because they may not know what they're able to afford.
Right. So the pre-qual step is definitely a very important one, right? So find out where their financing is at. So we got Amy hopping in right now too. Cool. I don't know if we'll have anybody else because I didn't forewarn anybody. It was this morning's decision just because I knew I already had the hour commitment with the homebuyer class, and I know how helpful that is. When my dad started his first real estate company, that was actually our main training, was the homebuyer class. Every agent had to go to every homebuyer class. He would do them just about once a quarter. It wasn't every month, but it was pretty frequently, but about once every 3 months or so. And he's taught the homebuyer class on base for the past 20 plus years. At some point, some agent outside of the base complained and made it where nobody could do it. And it's a huge injustice to the military, because something very important to them, especially having somebody like my dad who was retired Navy, who was very educated on the real estate process, understood what they were going through and their hesitations. He waited till he was 38 before he purchased his first home. A lot of it was because of the unknown and uncertainty of every 3 years, I'm not sure where I'm going to be. Do I really want to buy if I'm going to be moving 3 years from now? So he waited till he was 38 before he finally purchased. It was pretty close towards the end of his career. I'm trying to think of if it was after he retired, and I believe it was. He was Yeah, it's not important, but he waited a long time. So he took a lot of pride in teaching that class. There was a couple other agents who also were military that he used to rotate with. And then at some point when they stopped it, it was pretty rough. Fortunately, he worked for Fleet and Family Services at one point, and he did that for 6 years and was able to continue teaching those courses as well as other financial education courses. So it's a very powerful tool. I don't know, have you ever, Jody, have you been a part of a homebuyer class before?
No, I have not.
Okay, have you heard of them before?
No.
Okay. Amy, I see you hopped on. Can you hear us okay, Amy?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you great. I'm glad to have you a part of us.
Okay. I should get my
Awesome.
video going.
Don't worry about it. It's all good either way. So so at some point, and I haven't seen the text, I'm gonna keep looking. Yeah, so Danny Munoz has some other Zoom meetings. They're likely gonna text me when I need to hop on, but I'm gonna check probably at about 11:45 to 11:50 for the VC CDC. So they have a different thing that is like it's not Zoom, it's some other, it's like meeting, go-to meeting or something like that. I found out last time that I can run the Zoom while that's going on. The thing with the audio, just be careful. I mean, once that starts, mute out, everything, because it's only audio coming from my computer out. So I don't want them to know that we have, 3 or 4 other participants or whoever else is on. There'll probably be somewhere between 20 to 30 students in the class. And then it's typically, and I know you have to go, Jody, and it's all good. Like I said, I'm going to record it so that if you want to go back and watch it, you're welcome to watch it at any point in time. And this class, I don't do my first time consultation exactly like it, but usually if I'm talking, let's just say to an internet lead, it would be somebody who is interested in buying a house. Maybe they just registered on the website, right? And Yvette, actually, she can share what she did with the process of it. Do you want to go ahead and share that? And then I'll jump into what I do.
Yeah, because I don't know, he didn't answer my call today, so we'll see.
It's okay.
Well, I called him first and just, asked him if he had a moment to talk. He said, yeah. And then I told him I saw that he had signed up on our website. And then just said, why don't you tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for and what your situation is? And so that's when he told me that he was retired military. He wanted to see what, if he wanted to work with someone that had VA experience and knowledge. And so he's like, I don't know how I stumbled upon you, but, I saw that you work with veterans and I liked, that. So I just reached out. And I said, well, I appreciate that. And I gave him a little bit of background about the company. And I said, what is your guys' time frame for buying? And he said his lease wasn't up until the end of the year, so like December. And I said, that's great. You're getting started early. This market's tough right now. It's taking a couple months to get an offer accepted. So the earlier you have your ducks in the row, the better it'll be when you find the house that you want. And then I asked what they were looking for space-wise, and he let me know it was just him and his wife and their Siberian Husky, that they were more concerned about a yard than the actual house, where they wanted to be, where their family was located. And I said, that's great. Like, I'm going to set you up on a search just so you can get an idea of what's available in the market right now, and then we can kind of fine tune it the closer we are to knowing when you want to go out and what you can financially afford. He had said he'd been pre-approved once before to 550, that he wasn't super happy with being like that low. He wanted to be higher. So I said, well, let me get you with our VA lender. He's super knowledgeable. He's also a veteran himself, and let him run your numbers and see where you're at now, and then we'll know if what you can do to work on it to get it so you have a higher purchasing power, or if you are already higher and you didn't know it. And I said, would you be comfortable with me having my lender call you? And he said, absolutely. And I said, awesome. So I told him that I would have Brett call him and send a follow-up email, that I would set him up on the portal, and then I would follow up today to see how the portal was going for him and if he needed me to make any adjustments. I know he's talking to Brett because Brett's been updating me every day. They haven't finished his financials to see where he's at, but when I called him today, it just went to voicemail, so I left him a message. So that's how that went.
That's awesome. Well, good job on that. It looks like I'm coming up pretty close to having to come up on here. So let me try to do a share screen. I logged on to the GoToWebinar. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, let me try to do it. But nice job with that. There is more that I want to talk about with that. I'll do it before I get asked to be on here. I just turned off the audio on here so it's not distracting. But basically, awesome job. So the few things is we do a lot of discovery on that initial conversation. Our goal with an internet lead would be to meet face to face. Now, both of you are right in terms of trying to get them qualified, right? Because we don't want to waste our time. But what they've shown with NAR statistics is 2 out of 3 buyers, it's like 60-something%, will work with the first buyer they meet face to face. And so what a lot of people try to do is they try to qualify them first. Well, you can tell based on that initial conversation how important that is. If somebody reaches out to you on an $800,000 property, meet them face to face. Try to set up a meeting, try to do a Zoom meeting, and that phone call could be the first one, or it could be meeting them at, like what I just did the other day. I showed some property, then we went over to Topa Topa afterwards. I got some pizza, had a beer. Then we went and actually saw another property. We wrote an offer, but that face-to-face interaction is huge. That's really where you start crystallizing the relationship. So what a lot of people do is they'll ask, are you working with another agent? Or they'll say, tell me about your financing. And with a complete stranger, it doesn't always go well on that first call. That's a lot to ask. You got to put yourself in their shoes. So I'm not saying just go out there to meet them for face-to-face. This is, again, internet lead conversion, not a referral, not even what you handled. Yvette was on point because you were able to build enough rapport over that phone call to try to get him to take the next step. So you identify where point A is, and then you go to point B. And his point A was he's not financed yet, and he needs to get financed or figure out what the financing is. And you got him at least motivated enough to talk to Brett, which he's in discussions with that. So now your next point, so now that you got point B and you found out that he's talking to Brett, now that's your point A, your next point B is going to be, okay, well, I need to have another follow-up discussion with him. So how do I continue to create more value and find out what's going on? And I would probably talk to Brett first, if you haven't, which you may have done, before talking to the client again, or the prospect, because it's not a client yet. So that's another thing, understanding the difference between a prospect and a client, right? So
and I talked to Brett a little bit, but he didn't have final numbers yet.
Okay.
But I told the guy I would call him to just check in today, so I didn't want to not call him after I said I would.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to try to connect the audio on here, and then I'll see if I can try to figure out the share screen, because I'm only seeing one screen right now. So let me see what I can do. Are you guys good? And if you got to leave, go ahead and leave, or just stay on until you have to go. We good?
Yep.
Okay.
Your sister pays for the mortgage out of her checking account, her savings account, her account. Can't be a joint account either. You cannot have taken any kind of tax deduction on your personal, federal, or state income taxes, and that you don't or have not rented the home in over 3 years. So there's some exceptions, but it gets a little bit stickier because we're trying to prove that you have no real interest in a home.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
I'm in San Luis Obispo County. I don't have the income levels, unfortunately, for San Luis Obispo County.
Can you all see the screen?
Assistances in particular
I'm
that
muted
I
right now,
mentioned
so
are
we're okay in
specific
talking.
for all of Ventura, Los Angeles, Kern,
Okay.
and Los Angeles, Kern, and Santa Barbara County, the 4 counties mentioned. The certificate for today's class extends again nationwide, but these particular assistances is something for if you were purchasing in those 4 counties. All right, so I'm going to respond to a few of the questions here, specifically directly to you guys. So you'll get a little response from me in a second, but we are going to take an official 10-minute break. Walk away from the computer here. I want to give you guys just a break from the eyes. I'm going to be showing a video here of one of our home fires that we've had. And so that way, we can get a little story. I'm not 100% sure if the audio's been fixed. I want to hope that it has been fixed, but I'm not sure. But I'm going to just show a video. So we'll take a 10-minute break, come back at 11:55 for our next section with Realty. So please make sure, take a visual break here, and we will come back for our next section.
Awesome. Well, that's nice that we have that 10-minute break. Like I said, last time they asked me last minute, oh, can you hop on at 11:30? And I wasn't ready for it. And so, I had to do it. I don't think she's going to unmute me because she's doing this break in the video. So we're okay, but we can keep talking. And then let me do, I'm going to stop this share screen. It's no point in watching this. For whatever reason, the audio never works anytime they try to do this. All right. You guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Jody, I still got you. Amy, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I just have to do something really fast. Take me 2 minutes.
No worries. Do what you got to do. Okay. So Jody, I was trying to rush because I was a little stressed about making sure I wasn't missing my slot. So now that I know I have 10 minutes, that's huge. How do you feel about what Yvette had shared? Like, what did you get from that? Or even some of the points that I made? Anything that was like different from what you've heard in the past? Because that's usually the first thing I hear, because I've taught internet lead conversion to big groups,
No,
quite a bit.
that's pretty similar to what I would do. I mean, she answered or responded to him. So instead of ignoring the, information, and then set him up with a financial person,
Right.
and is keeping in touch with the financial person so
Mhm.
that she can figure out what's going on.
Right.
And then also reaching back out is
Yep.
huge, especially because she gave him her word that she would check in with him today.
Right.
So
So when they don't check in, what is kind of your initial response or feeling when you're planning on connecting with them and they don't? What do you, what's kind of your next step, or what do you think is the best approach at that point?
well, I'd probably give him a little time because he might be working, he might be doing something.
Good.
And then I would reach out to the financial person for any other updates.
Right.
And then I would reach out to him again.
That's good. Yeah, the one of the things that I have found, and I tried to do, because the question comes up quite a bit. It's like, okay, we had a great first initial conversation. They went to even get pre-qualified or pre-approved, but now I can't get a hold of them. One thing, and I'm probably not the best with this, I'll be the first to admit, is I am always constantly either prospecting or talking to people and getting people ready to get to the next step. If they're motivated and they actually start getting pre-approved and start doing that, great. If they're not and they're not moving, I don't babysit them. I let them, my time is very important. Your time's important. Yvette's time, Amy's, everybody's time is important. And once we start engaging, if they start moving along, I know they're motivated. If they don't, I really don't, I give them, I'm focused on finding other people and continue to always focus on finding other people. And so what I've learned to find out is this, I hate to call it a game of real estate, but this game of real estate is you find out who's most motivated. You have to find motivated buyers and sellers, and we're constantly looking for them. And I'm not going to just write them off just because they didn't answer a call. I'll still try to follow up with them, but I'm not going to be on that particular person. When they start engaging with me, now I'm available. Now I flex. Now I'm going to do everything in my power to move appointments that I can move to make sure that I can show them the one house out of 8 houses that are on the market right now in Camarillo under 700,000. So the key is knowing, like, okay, when do I have to be flexible? When do I have to adjust? When do I have to be on my game? When do I kind of give them a little bit of space? And the more you can master that and balance people, you're going to be less stressed. Your clients and prospects are going to feel less stressed. They're going to see, and some may say, well, I reached out to you and then I never heard from you again. It's like, no, I was the last to reach out to you. I reached out to you on this day. I left you a voicemail. I sent you a text and didn't hear anything. So, but I typically never get anybody complaining about that. Now, will I lose business? Yeah, I've lost business that way, but I'm not stressed out. And people who know what they want are reaching out to me. So once they're engaging, now I'm setting the appointment. So kind of part of the process is, first thing is we have that initial conversation. My goal in that conversation is to do discovery, see where they're at, their point A. Everybody's different. Some have bought a house before, some haven't bought a house before. Some get the process a little bit, some don't. So my goal, instead of doing a face-to-face now, is typically a Zoom call that's going to be, well, would it be of interest to learn more about the process? Would it be good to understand how you're protected by the contract? Would it be good to understand about different down payment assistance programs? And if they see value in any of those things, then I'm going to set up that appointment. That's going to be the next call. Does that make sense? Not sure if I have Amy or Jody.
Yes.
So do you get what my goal is on that first call? What I'm trying to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jody, do you get it?
Yeah, I like the idea. I'm going back to the not, because I don't want to hound it. I don't want to be like a car salesman. I don't want to hound someone.
Right.
So I'll give a call because I said I would, and then I may try one more time and just tell them I'll wait for you to reach me.
Right. And you can leave that on the voicemail, and you can still check up on them the following week and maybe catch them at a better time. I'm just not doing it on a constant basis. And my
I know
follow
for me, if
Go
someone
ahead.
was doing that to me and constantly calling me and I haven't called you back yet,
Yeah.
I would be turned off if someone kept calling me.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is when I know somebody is serious and they start showing me by taking action and they're taking those steps, then I know it's like, okay, now I need to move my schedule around and make sure I'm available, engaging, responding by text. And I know over this last weekend, I haven't been the best. I mean, most of you know that I was at the seminar from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then homework afterwards. It was crazy. I mean, even my wife was like, wow, I thought I'd at least get a call, She's just like, thought I'd get a call at some point, and I said, I'm sorry, babe. I mean, I was hoping I'd have even more of a break. It was one of the strictest ran seminars that I've ever been to, but it was good. And there was a lot there. And I was still distracted on the first day with my phone, with text messages. And Yvette knows we wrote an offer and I was waiting for a response. I put a short expiration on it. So I put a short expiration and then I can't even just pick up my phone and do what I need to do. It was bad. And so I was late on my first time back to the first break. And they were trying to set the example, set the tone. And it was just like, look, you made a promise and a commitment that you'd be here on time. And literally we had about a 20-minute break. It wasn't that long of a break. So I tried to do as much as I could. And then I get the response to the counter the minute before I'm supposed to be back. So now it's like, okay, now I got to call my client, let them know we got our counter. These are the terms. I'm sorry I don't have more time to talk. Check it out. Luckily, this is a client I've worked with, 16 years ago. So he trusts me, knows me, and we're good. And then Yvette was able to help out with it as well. So stressful to say the least, so.
But look, listening to what Yvette did, I mean, I feel like I would have done the same thing. Like she did everything by book, I think, and just sticking to her word was huge.
Yeah. And I wouldn't sweat it if he's not picking up the phone today. I would probably follow up again tomorrow and see if I connect. If I don't, then I'd give him a little bit of space and see if he reconnects. And it happens all the time. But when they find a house that they want, that's when they call you. That's typically it. So sometimes it's the next week, or it could be the next month even. And then they reach out to you, but you initiated it and you helped them with it. So then you keep sending them properties, keep doing that, give them a little bit of space and you're good to go. It comes, people know everybody's busy and everybody's distracted more than ever. So, it's understanding that. So I know I'm supposed to be back on real quick. So I haven't heard anything yet though. So they must be doing their thing. Let me see if I get back to that share screen. Anything, Amy, you wanted to add before getting back to it? Are you there, Amy? We're okay to talk. I'm muted on here too. I haven't been unmuted yet. Can you hear us?
I hear you. I don't have anything to add at the moment.
Anything that made sense or didn't make sense, in terms of how I was explaining it or Yvette was explaining it earlier?
Yeah, it totally makes sense what Yvette was doing. And I mean, it helps, like, remember that one I tried to reel in, I realized I wasn't asking the right questions.
That's
so good. I kind of just learned from that and got to ask the right questions. So you know where they're at.
Right. That's exactly on point with that realization.
All right, guys. we're
Okay,
gonna
looks like
stay
I'm
on
hopping back
time.
on,
We
so
are back for
we'll
our
talk in
next
a bit.
section.
All right,
For
I'm
our
gonna
shopping
unmute myself.
mobile.
If you guys
I'd
can
like
mute
to
yourselves.
introduce our guest speaker, Brandon Rainey with Rainey and Associates. Brandon graduated from the Gonzaga School of Law, served as Director of Realty actually here at CCDC from 2013 and 2015, helping many of our first-time homebuyers achieve their dream of homeownership in Ventura County. Using all the different resources we had. Over the past 4 years, Brandon was a branch manager for Century 21 Real Estate, which was ranked 31 out of over 8,000 offices and oversaw over 1,200 successful closed transactions here in Ventura County. In a very competitive marketplace, which is going on now with low inventory, low interest rates, and strong buyer demand, Rainey and Associates has helped 18 buyers, and actually, since I think I've written this, it's probably been a little bit more, close their transactions in 2020. So Brandon, I heard you were there.
Yes, can you hear me okay, Gabby?
Yes, we can hear you. So I'm gonna switch over to your screen.
Can you actually keep it on yours if that's
Oh,
okay
yeah.
with your PowerPoint?
Absolutely, yes.
Awesome. And
I will
thank
keep it here.
and thank you so much for that introduction, Gabby. I appreciate just the opportunity to be able to be on here. Is there anything else before we get going, or are we doing is it a 45-minute for this one?
Correct.
Okay.
So we'll be on here and I will just keep us on time.
Awesome.
For everyone participating, please make sure to send your questions. I will be going through those and we'll ask Brandon the questions at the end of our section here. So
Perfect.
Go
So
ahead. and take it away.
our time, just so I'm ready for, is it 12:45 that we're trying to finish by, or
12:40.
12:40? Perfect. All right, I'll do my best and talk as fast as I can through this, because as you know, there's a lot of content for the realty portion. And before I get going, just want to share that I am very grateful to have the opportunity to speak to you. It looks like there's 18 people on here. I know how daunting and overwhelming this can seem in purchasing, if this is your first home, purchasing your first home, purchasing any real estate. A real estate purchase is one of the top 5 most stressful things that anybody experiences in their lifetime. And people feel pressure when they're going out to purchase a car, and that's a big commitment. And then you multiply this by about 10 to even 100 times that, and it's tough to know, just, am I making the right decision? Is now the right time for me to purchase? Can I trust this real estate agent? Can I trust this loan officer? Yeah, I was speaking to a buyer yesterday, and he was sharing with me that his parents never purchased because they were always very skeptical or cynical and non-trusting of the market, non-trusting of an agent, because an agent gets paid a commission to help them purchase a home. So the one thing I want to make a promise and a commitment here, just first and foremost, that this is all about you. This is all about when the time's right for you. And I'm here to give you as much good information as I can, accurate, real information of what's relevant to today and purchasing a home today. And there is, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you're working with another agent, I'm very appreciative of your loyalty, because that's very honorable. And it's tough to come by, especially in tough markets like today, where some people feel that the best interest is to even call a listing agent because you're going to have a better chance because it's so competitive. You'll hear of these 1 in 28 offers, or 10 offers, or 15 offers, and you'll think, how am I ever going to find the right home if it's this competitive? And the hope and inspiration, if I can share any with you, is those that we've worked with that we know are committed to purchasing a home, that have the faith, and I'm trying not to get too spiritual here, but I have faith in a higher being. I have a faith that whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. And if you have it and you're doing the right things, you will find the right home. If one door shuts, the right one's going to come. So do your best, work hard, buy when the time is right for you. And you're going to have a lot of people around you that are going to say, oh, you don't want to do that. It's the top of the market. Market's going to crash. This is a bad idea. Don't do it, whatever it is. And number one, you want to look at the source of who's telling you that. Is this somebody who's a homeowner? Is this somebody who has purchased multiple properties, or maybe just purchased one? 2, you know, I do a lot of personal development, and I do a lot of leadership training and classes, just came from one. You know, you want to look is, it's not that people aren't looking out for your best interest. Sometimes these are people we love and are super close to us, and they are looking out for us, and they're telling us how to love. At the same time, they may have quit on their dream, like my friend, who I recently am helping him through the process, where his parents have never purchased a home. So he knows what he wants, and he knows that he can do the analysis understanding, and he's trying to put the right people around him to get that going. So I know that's kind of a long intro, but I just want to be as direct and real as possible. And then there's certain things we have to cover through the home buyer class. That's just certain things that are HUD requirements, and then things that I feel are more pressing and important as we get this rolling. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Usually I would say any questions at any time, please ask them. But you know, in this type of setting, we have to hold those towards the end. But if I say something that triggers something, just please write it down. And then you're going to have an opportunity to ask at the end if I can try to power through this as quickly as I can. Okay. So first thing is there are 3 different definitions they want you to know you'll hear about for real estate professionals. You hear a real estate broker, a real estate agent, and then realtors. A real estate broker and an agent, the good thing to differentiate between the 2 of those is in California, a broker, there is a broker of record and there's a broker associate. It requires a higher licensing standard. So you have to take more tests. I'm actually going through the broker courses right now. It's a lot more hours of education. And then you have to be licensed for at least 2 years practicing real estate to become a broker. The broker of record is really the person who's in charge, who's responsible for all the agents that work under that brokerage. Real estate agent is somebody who has passed their real estate test and gotten their license. And that also takes usually about 3 to 6 months to become a real estate agent in terms of coursework, passing the test and doing that. But you can be a real estate agent and not be an actual realtor. A realtor is somebody who's designated by the state and the nation as a realtor. They have a higher standard. So you can check out realtor.com. There's also another thing called dre.ca.gov. And you can check out any licensed agent and see if they have any type of track record, negative remarks that are public comments that you can look up any type of agent. Again, that's dre.ca.gov. Next slide, please. Okay, so now with the different hats, this is more relevant in most situations to what you're going to be looking at. So you as a buyer should have a buyer's agent, and then there's a seller's agent. So if I have, I'm a buyer, I'm looking to purchase a home, first thing I want to find is representation. Now you have the option of keeping your options open. A lot of people think that this is the best way to go. I personally have not heard of anybody who's been successful doing it that way, especially in this competitive market. Maybe somebody does get lucky and they reach out to a listing agent directly. And I was actually on the phone with a listing agent who a house just hit the market yesterday. She said a buyer called her up saying, yeah, I'm working with an agent, but I'll work with you to try to get this deal. And she told me, she says, I don't work that way. I just think that that's, you know, it's too bad in this kind of market for people to do those types of things. So some agents may be turned off by that. And one thing to know is you get one first impression. So a lot of times when we communicate as we're looking for homes, we think it's harmless to just call a listing agent and start having a conversation. The reason why there can be some harm there is you may say something that gives the other side a little bit more info than you really want to do, or you may paint the wrong picture right out the gate. So now if that buyer now works with their agent and writes an offer, that listing agent has a seed planted in their head that this buyer may not be the most loyal. Now, is this buyer going to be the one who I want to close a transaction with? Do I feel they're going to stay committed through the process if we accept their offer and take their offer over 10 other offers? Is this the best buyer? And I'm not saying that she's going to say no to that person, but my guess is that person's probably going to have a hard time getting their offer accepted. Okay. Now, the listing agent works for the seller. The seller will pay a commission to the listing agent and to your buyer's agent on successful completion of the transaction. So even though the seller's paying both commissions, you don't pay that commission out of pocket as a buyer. At the same time, your agent, even though they're being paid by the seller, has a fiduciary duty to look out for your financial best interest. And that's required by state law. So they have a duty. What that fiduciary duty means, I always explain it. If I'm representing a family member I'm going to look out for all their best interests. That's how I want to work with my clients. It's the same thing, and the court's going to hold your agent to a higher standard. And I always have to say this up front because I did go to law school, but I'm not an attorney. So I'm not giving any legal advice through this process, all just strictly from experience and sharing what I know works and doesn't work. Okay, next slide, please. So interviewing an agent, and the last thing I just noticed that as we switch slides is the dual agency just means that the listing agent is also representing the buyer. Now that can be done, and it can be done ethically, and it can be done in the right way. Now, most people have a hard time feeling that an agent could look out for the seller's best interest and the buyer's best interest and never share confidential information. So it does create that feeling that somebody's not being loyal. But from past experience, I know that it can be done. Usually if I'm in that role and I'm representing both the seller and the buyer, I have to be a little bit more neutral, just meaning I can give you advice, but when it comes to like price or offer and those things, I'm going to let you make those decisions. And I'll give you as much info, but before I share info with the other side, I'm going to say, everything we say is confidential. However, if you want me to share something with the other side, do I have permission to share that you want to submit an offer for 500,000, even though the asking is 525? Do I have permission to share that? And they'll say, yes, I do. So if you have an agent that can do that on both sides, great. If you don't feel the good, warm and fuzzies, you may want to think twice and get your own agent representation. So now on this slide, interviewing an agent. So some key questions to ask is, do you work as a full-time agent or are you a part-time agent? How long have you been licensed? How many transactions did you close really this last year or in the last 3 to 6 months? Are you knowledgeable about my community? And then finally, it says, will you request a buyer broker agreement? I think it says comment on there. I got the sidebar here, so I can only see part of it. But basically, buyer broker agreement is a buyer representation agreement. What it means is if you selected an agent and that you want to represent you as a buyer, that you're under contract typically for a period of time of 6 months to a year. Now, if you go and buy a house and you decide you don't like that agent, you're going to need to get some type of cancellation of that agreement if they'll allow you to. Sometimes they won't. So be careful before signing a buyer broker agreement. Make sure that that's an agent that you know has a great track record, that you truly feel that they're going to look out for your best interest before signing something like that, because it could lead to other things. And just know in most situations, it's not a requirement. So you don't have to engage in a buyer broker agreement just to work and have a buyer representing you. Typically, the way I'll handle it is if you trust me, say that you want me to be your agent representing you, then that's all I need to hear. Just let me know if at any point in time you're not happy with how I'm serving you, so that I don't take my time away from other people who are committed to working with me, because I'm typically going to work with roughly about 5 to 7 clients at one point in time. Now, there may be other people that are getting qualified, but in actually showing property or working for sellers, it's roughly going to be about 5 to 7, and I am a full-time agent. So that may give you an idea of bandwidth, and you can ask those kind of questions. How many other clients are you working with right now, right? If they say none, don't be alarmed or afraid. That could be a good thing. Maybe they just wrapped up their last 3 to 5 deals, right? So it's not a bad thing if they don't have any other clients right then. You just want to make sure it hasn't been like that for the last 2-3 years, and you're the first person that they're working with. You may have some challenges in this type of market. Next slide, please. Your agent's roles. They're going to ask you and discuss your needs and wants. So one of the first things I'll do is a buyer consultation meeting. And in that initial meeting, could be a Zoom meeting, could be in person. It could be, at the office. It could be at a restaurant somewhere. But we're going to discuss, what are you looking for? What are your needs and your wants? So the 2 things to stay focused on as you're purchasing a home. When I said you buy when the time's right for you, try not to get all concerned about the market. Is the market going down? Is it going up? If you buy for the long term, you're always going to win. You're always going to do well, and it's going to be the best decision you ever made. There's a stat out there that renters and people who do not own homes have an average net worth of roughly about $4,000 in total, versus a homeowner's average net worth is roughly about $250,000. That's just on a national level. That's the difference in terms of net worth. So when you can get into owning a home, you do it. Right now, the reason why you buy now versus at any other time is because of the low interest rates. It's the cheapest money is ever going to be. So the rates usually one of the most important factors of what you want. because other times people try to buy it when the prices are a little lower, but the rates are higher. So eventually you got to refinance. Well, if you get it at a low rate, you're going to do good in the long run. Okay. So you buy when the time's right for you, and then utility, you want to make sure it fits your needs. If you have 3 kids, 3 children, or you have your parents also living with you, or whatever the situation is, you can't get a 1-bedroom house or a condo. You're going to need minimum 2 to 3 bedrooms. And that has to happen, right? So the utility of it has to work. It's got to be functional for what your needs are and what your wants are. Provide background information on the market. The agent should be telling you what's happening in the market today. How are offers being presented? How long does it take before we find out? What's the likelihood? How many times we got to write offers before we get it? If they're not giving you clear answers on this, that may be a red flag that you may need to talk to somebody else. And a good thing to do if you're looking for agents is to talk to your friends and family that have purchased a home and had a good experience. And then I would probably start with that person first. Okay. Then knowing about the market, locate and show you properties. So they're going to set you up on a search, and then they should be able to add what's called auto subscription, where it's like a search for certain parameters, and then you'll get listing alerts. Some of you may be on Zillow, Redfin, and other things. Be careful with that. Just don't click on where it says, do you want to talk to an agent? And the reason why I say I don't do that is because there's ads that are sold. Those are just advertising. When it says a preferred agent or premier agent, it's not an earned position, it's a paid position. So when you click on that, all that means is somebody's going to be calling you now off that listing, maybe not even more times than not the listing agent. It's just going to be some agent who's paying for advertising. So just so you're aware of that. Okay. So that agent's going to locate and show you properties, negotiate on your behalf, explain the escrow process and timelines, ensure the transaction closes and resolves any problems. So what we're doing today is we're going to go over the process of your offer gets accepted, what happens next. Okay. So a big part of that you will be learning today, and you won't have to do that again, but you may want to ask the agent to tell you, okay, after an offer gets accepted, what happens next, so that you can hear how you're protected by the contract, how they're going to represent you and negotiate you through the process. That would be a good interviewing test question if you're looking to test your agent. Okay, next slide, please. All right, your role as the buyer, be ready. Communicate with your agent. Communication is key. You have to communicate with your agent and share with them and ask them, they should ask you, what's your preferred method of communication? When are you available? Do you prefer text? Do you prefer email? Do you prefer a phone call? But if you're not happy with what you're seeing, share that with your agent. Or if things aren't happening to your liking, if they're not meeting your expectations, share that with your agent. If you share that with your agent and they're still not meeting your expectations, fire your agent and find another good agent out there. There's plenty of good agents out there. You'll hear a lot of stories about the not so great ones, but we're not here to talk about who's great and who's not great. Trust your gut instinct and find somebody who's going to look out for your best interest. Do not sign forms if you do not understand what they mean. The buyer broker agreement, perfect example. Last thing you want to do is be stuck with somebody that you didn't do a Google search and just Google search them and find out that this isn't the person that you want to be with, right? You can check Zillow reviews. You can check, there's a lot of different things you can do online without even having to talk to them to see. Check their Facebook page, see how active they are in the real estate just based off of posts. Be careful with some of that too. Just because you see a lot of house posts doesn't mean necessarily they do a lot of business. So you can check their track record and see how many homes they've sold. All right, next slide, please. Creating your wish list. Consider the following when deciding among the different types of homes: location, privacy, responsibility, maintenance, amenities, and affordabilities. Now, a lot of people that I speak to, they're like, oh, I hear you don't want to get HOAs, right? HOAs could be good. They could be a hindrance. They could restrict you in certain ways. HOAs are homeowner association dues. So a lot of times, especially for entry level or for your first purchase, HOA is almost a necessary thing to look at just based on price point. Usually for your entry level homes, it's going to be a condo or a townhouse. And with that, there's going to be restrictions. Sometimes somebody can be living next to you. Sometimes somebody can be living above you. So there's rules that are in place that you have to look at. How is parking going to be? How is it going to be with the laundry situation? Is it inside the place, or do I have a community laundry, right? These are some big decisions that you have to see that it'd be nice if I had my interior, but it's not necessary. Or no, there's no way I'm using a community laundry. I need to do it inside the house. You know, those are things that you want to discuss with your agent. Okay, next slide, please. Tips for looking at properties: drive through the neighborhood before requesting a showing. Sometimes in this market, you don't have the luxury of doing that, just because the average homes right now, If you pull up stats, you'll look and you'll see it says in Camarillo, 7 days is the average days on market. Now, I would say it's even less than that. It's probably within 72 hours. Within 3 days, most homes are going under contract. But even more than that, if something's been on for 7 days, doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the house. A lot of times, agents are telling their sellers, don't take anything within the first 7 days, or we need at least a full week to get full exposure. One property that we called about over this weekend had 40 showings in 2 days. 2 days, Saturday, Sunday, they had 40 showings. No offers in hand, which is actually interesting. This is a detached home in Camarillo, listed at 675. 40 showings, no offers in hands. And they're not saying, hey, wait until next Monday to deliver your offers. They're going to present them as soon as they come in. So that's a question I'm going to ask as an agent when I call a particular property that is up for sale and we're interested in seeing it. Number one, I'm going to say, do you have any offers in hand? And they'll say yes or no. Two, I'm going to say, okay, if we're interested and we present an offer, are you presenting right away? Or are you going to wait until a certain date before you present? That's going to change the advice or strategy I'm going to give my client on when they should write, or even if they want to write and it's first day on the market, but they're collecting it for a week, it may be best for me to check on day 5 or day 6 and see where they're at, see how many offers have come in, and see if I can get a better tell of where we're at and whether this one's even within our price range now. Okay. So it says, go to the area during different times of the day. The reason for that tip is it's going to happen more and more as people start driving back to work again, is you can see it during the day and everybody's at work and all the cars are gone. Then you can come at nights or on the weekend and it's packed. And actually the house that I just showed yesterday, that's a perfect example. It's right next to baseball fields. Well, there weren't too many cars out there. Well, my kids play baseball at those fields. So that particular location is inundated with cars as soon as there's any game, and there's almost a game every day of the week during baseball season. And not only is there spring, there's also fall. So the downside to move into that particular street or neighborhood is you will have a tough time with parking. Other than your driveway and your garage, there will be no additional parking on that street. So it's something to know. And those are things that you're hoping your agent's going to point those types of things out for you. Trying to view more than one property at a time. Right now, I can tell you in Camarillo under 700,000, other than the 55 and older properties. So excluding that, there were 8 homes in total on the market and only maybe 3 that were available. All the others were already under contract, going to go under contract, meaning they were saying we already had too many showings. We have offers. We're not accepting any more showings. So when you call your agent, we have something, agents have access to something called agent remarks. Those agent remarks, you as a buyer can see public remarks, marketing remarks, but you don't see the agent remarks. So sometimes agents will update those agent remarks and say, hey, we're not allowing any more showings. So that's why the communication is important between you and your agent, because you're going to reach out to your agent and say, hey, we're interested in property ABC. And then I'll say, okay, great. Let me check in on it. And then I'll get back to you. What time works for you if it is available to be seen? Well, we can do later today at 3 o'clock. Great. So I'll reach out to the agent, or I'll pull it up on the MLS and see the agent remarks, no more showings. So then I'll respond back and say, I'm sorry, this one's already gone. They're not doing any more showings and they already have multiple offers in hand, right? So it's done. So now we move to the next property. So you want to do that ahead of time and you have to. There's a new thing called the PEAD, P-E-A-D form. That is also something that's a requirement with COVID, that you sign that form saying you don't have COVID and that you're going to follow these rules before viewing the property. So the owner should not be in the house while you're in the property. Even if they're living there, they should be in the backyard or taking a walk around the block. You shouldn't be in there at the same time as them. And appointments have to be set. That's why there's no more open houses, right? So it's all has to be through an agent. They have to go there with their super key and set an appointment first, get the PEAD forms first. A lot of times get your pre-approval letter first before you can even see the home. So times are different right now versus maybe when a friend or a relative purchased a home a year, 2 years ago, or whatever the case is. Okay. Don't assume everything's included in the sale. So when you go through the property, look at the appliances. If you see a fridge, washer, dryer, note that. If you want it, note it. If you don't want it, note that as well. Maybe you want them to remove the washer dryer. Maybe it's hideous, right? Maybe it's a really just, rusted up washer dryer or whatever the case is. And you're like, yeah, can you do me a favor and make sure that's gone? Because these are issues that come up prior to close of escrow. And somebody says, well, I don't want the washer dryer. And the other agent says, well, it was included in the contract, so we're not moving it. So it's your issue, your problem. You need to get rid of it after you take possession of the home. Okay, it says take notes of properties you're serious about. So as you're going through, you could either have a little notebook or on your phone, just take notes and just really pay attention to the ones you're interested in. Again, you should trust your agent and know that it's not them just trying to close you on something and get paid a commission. Communication and trust is key. And if you don't feel that, then you should probably find another person. Pay attention to property conditions. That's important. Becomes more important during your due diligence period. So just another quick tip, and I'm going to give you these tips as it comes through this process, even though I know we got a few more slides to do. Towards the end, just so you know, on some of the slides, we're just going to skip right through them because I've already covered it. Okay. So the tip here is there's two main things that if I do my job well as an agent, I help my client be able to get the home that they're looking for. And the first thing is focus. If I get them to focus on what it takes to get their offer accepted, I would say, how do you win in real estate? How do you win in getting your offer accepted? How was it that we were able to get our offer accepted with 28 offers that were on the table and my buyer had 10% down? That's not a lot of money down. There were all cash offers. There were LA offers that were well over asking price, well over. We were at 635. There were 650 offers and we got our offer accepted. So how did that happen with my buyer only having 10% down versus the backup that was taken with 50% down on a $635,000 purchase price? Asking was 590. We were at 635, and then there were offers at 650. So how do we get that offer accepted? The reason why is because my clients will understand what it takes to win. And so I coach them on that. Now, if we're going through the place and seeing termite and we're seeing all these problems and issues, and I'm asking a bunch of questions to the listing agent, what type of impression does that leave that listing agent? And they haven't accepted my offer yet. I haven't even presented an offer yet. What kind of feeling does that give them? Well, it may give them the feeling that this buyer's too needy, or this buyer is going to be difficult to work with, or this buyer's too new to the process and doesn't understand it. So when I accept this offer and I take the 1 out of 28, I have to convince my seller that this is the best out of 28 offers and they're going to be good to work with, that we will close the transaction. We're not wasting our time, because once they say yes to us, guess what happens? The best they can do is take backup offers for the other ones. Now that seller can't get out of that contract unless, and we're going to talk about this, the buyer breaches one of their duties and their timeline requirements, which we're going to get into in a few minutes. And if they don't do that, then the seller can send what's called a notice buyer to perform. They send that notice in writing. Now you have an additional 48 hours. And after the 48 hours, if that buyer still doesn't do it, which is like depositing an earnest money deposit check in 3 business days after an offer is accepted. So say offers accepted on Monday, 3 business days is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday by 11:59 p.m. Well, escrow is only open till 5. So you have 3 days to get that money in. If that money's still not in by that 3rd day, the seller just can't cancel. They have to issue that notice in writing saying, hey, this is your notice of buyer to perform. Now you have 48 hours. So that's Thursday. So now you have Friday, Saturday, which Saturday is on a weekend. And this is another rule in the contract that escrow is not open on the weekend. So you're going to have all the way until Monday to still get that earnest money deposit in. Okay. Now everything's case by case, but in most situations, that's what would happen. And now if that buyer still didn't get that earnest money in by Monday and that notice buyer to perform was sent and delivered and your agent received it, now by Monday, if that money's not in by the end of business day that day, the seller now has a right to cancel. That's the only way a seller can get out. So now you see how important it is to be the right buyer in getting your offer accepted, and being the right buyer in your perception, your appearance, how you work, how your agent communicates, how strong of a communicator are they? Do they ask the right questions to you? Do they ask the right questions to that agent to try to give you the best chance possible at being in that 1 in 28? All right. Now, just so you know, not every situation is even close to 1 in 28. There are a lot of 10 and plus. There's a lot of 3 to 5, right? There's fewer of the 1 to 2 situations, but they're out there. Usually this is another tip and part that I'm going to talk about is I call it a bucket A house and a bucket B. Bucket A is going to be what everybody wants. House just at the market, looks beautiful, priced well, HGTV property. That property is going to get 10 plus offers. It's just going to, and they're waiting a whole week before they're going to present offers. It's going to get 10 plus offers. Now you got bucket B house. Bucket B house is something that was in escrow, but that first buyer didn't perform. So it fell out of escrow. And now it's showing 30 days on the market. So this is a term you want to know of. It's called DOM, days on market. 30 days on the market And after 30 days on the market, that property falls out of escrow. Well, once that property falls out of escrow, 30 days on the market, now that seller has felt a little bit of a hurt. They were in escrow for almost a month. Maybe they're moving to another property. Maybe something's happened. And now, since it shows 30 days on the market, every buyer is used to seeing less than 7 days, and this one shows 30. What's wrong with it? Well, why did it fall out of escrow? So where do you think you have a little bit more leverage or potential negotiating power? Now you may be able to get something under asking price. Now you may be able to get some repairs done and some credits and so forth. And we're going to talk about that. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, but I wanted to give you some key tips, but just remember that bucket A house and bucket B house, because the other thing we do that a good agent will do is help people realize that if you want to win, sometimes you got to get a home that may look like wallpaper, popcorn ceiling, not that HGTV house, but it's got good bones. And you know what? I can do some things to it and invest maybe an additional 10,000 or so and do some paint, some carpet, some little things, make this my own. And this is the right house and it's in the right neighborhood and you just came up. My dad's taught this home buyer class for over 20 years. So I've heard it for a long time and I've taught it myself for 16 plus years. So one of the things I would always hear is you want to get the worst house in the best neighborhood, not the best house in the worst neighborhood. And if you have any questions about why that's the case, just give me a call or shoot an email afterwards and we'll talk why that's a good investment strategy. Okay. So now the purchase process. We've already talked about a bunch of this. Okay. We got 15 minutes. So what I'm going to do, since I've talked a lot about the tips, is we're going to jump straight to the timeline. Okay. So let's skip this slide. We're going to skip this slide. Earnest money deposit, I'm going to touch on because this is a key point. Okay, so earnest money deposit, your offer gets accepted. It's typically going to be somewhere between 1 to 3% of the purchase price. So we're going to use 500,000 as our example throughout this. Offer gets accepted at 500K. 3% is $15,000. Now, in some situations, we can get it for 1%, $5,000, and that's enough money. And it's always negotiable, but it can show strength or weakness if you have 15K versus 5,000. Now, after your offer gets accepted, your offer is accepted. You're the 1 in 28 that got picked. 3 business days later, you have to get this earnest money in. You have to either wire the money in or drop off a personal check. Sometimes they take cashiers, others, that's not important, but it's either wire or check, okay? Usually duffel bag of cash isn't good in this situation. You got to be able to source it. So you deposit that money into escrow, which is a neutral third party. That sits in a neutral account. Now, if you cancel the transaction, you typically have 21 days in the timeline. That's what we're going to talk about. 21 days after your offer is accepted to do your due diligence. So within the 3 weeks, if for whatever reason you find out that this isn't the house you want, you can cancel it and get your earnest money deposit back, as long as you haven't removed all of your ways out of the contract. Okay. There are some out-of-pocket expenses, and those I want to hit. Your home inspection, typically about $400 to $500. Your appraisal, it's about $400 to $600. Then you got your next one is going to be your any other inspections that you're doing, but typically you're looking somewhere between $1,000 to $1,500 of out-of-pocket expenses that if you cancel, you don't get that money back. All right. So now escrow, next slide. Escrow, as we talked about, has the 2 different definitions actually. One is your escrow officer works in an escrow company. That escrow company is that neutral third party where you delivered that earnest money deposit to. Escrow is that. The other definition of escrow is the time it takes from beginning to end to close your transaction. So that could be 30 days, 45 days, and that's also called escrow. Next slide, please. Purchase agreement. This is what your offer looks like. It says 17-page document. It keeps getting longer and longer. But this is the actual form when you write an offer, and then your agent's going to ask you, okay, what do you want to write the amount for? So it's say $500,000 up towards the top here. Days after acceptance, that's how long the escrow is for. So 30, 45 days. Your earnest money is on where it says 3A initial deposit. That's where your EMD is going to be. And then it'll say other terms of what you want included or excluded in the purchase agreement. Next slide, please. So the purchase process contingencies. So the visualization is you walk into a hallway that's got 10 different doors open. You as a buyer have 10 doors wide open in that hallway. These are your ways out of the contract. These are your contingencies, good faith excuses out. So you got your home inspection, your mortgage loan approval, your appraisal, your house sale contingency or title contingency, meaning it's got a clean title. no liens, no issues. When you get that house, it's going to be free and clear of title. Okay. So with those doors open, you can walk out at any point in time in those first 21 days. Now, there are times that those timelines are shortened. So ask your agent before you sign off on the offer. If you have 21 days for all your contingencies to be removed. At that point in time, you have to know, am I willing to commit and put that $5,000 at risk if we can't perform and close the transaction after all contingencies are removed or not? That's a very key important concept to know. This is why communication is critical between you and your agent, between your agent and your loan officer. Everybody's got to be on the same team and got to be openly communicating in a quick and efficient manner. Next slide, please. Home inspection, we've already touched on this a little bit, but you're going to do your home inspection or appraisal up front. So if you're drawing a timeline out, you have a timeline, draw a line across, you have 0 at the beginning, you have 3 days for your earnest money deposit, you have 7 days for the seller to give you disclosures, you have 17 days for the total inspection period, 21 days for your loan. That's all your contingencies, and then 5 days prior to close. So if it's 45 days at day 40 or after, you're going to do your final walkthrough. All right, that's your typical timeline. And then on day 45, you're going to close and be the end of the transaction. Your home inspection you want to do in the first week. Your appraisal you want to do in the first week. So you have plenty of time if you need to do any further due diligence. So your home inspection is a general inspection that's going to give you red flags. Those red flags are going to say you got plumbing issues, you have electrical issues, you have roof issues. Okay, now I know these things. Now I got to get a roof inspector, or I need to get a certified electrician to give me an estimate of what it's going to cost. After the home inspection, I can typically put together what's called a request for repairs. And I'm going to ask for certain things to be fixed. All they have to fix by law: water heater, smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector. That's it. Everything else is negotiable. Had plenty of people tell me that, oh, I thought everything had to be up to code. Not true, not accurate, right? It's only water heater, smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector. Seller doesn't even have to respond to the request for repairs. It's not a requirement that they even respond, because all they have to fix are those 3 items. So just because you asked, it doesn't buy you more time that, oh, well, once they respond, then we're going to remove our contingencies. They can back out of the contract. If your agent tells you something differently, ask that agent to talk to their broker. Make sure you're all on the same page before you jeopardize losing your house. Next slide, please. Okay, common red flags, we talked about it. Next slide. Appraisal. Okay, an appraisal is an important thing to understand. Your appraisal, you're going to order that and pay for that up front after your offer gets accepted. Your loan officer should have your credit card information on file or get it from you. They're going to order the appraiser to go out there. The appraiser works for you as the buyer and the lender. They're not connected to the lender. It's got to be a third-party appraiser. Appraiser goes out, gives a value of the property. If we wrote it at 500, seller accepts it at 500, but the appraisal comes in at 470, we got a problem. Okay, because the bank's only going to give you $470,000 for that property. So unless you have another 30,000 in the bank, or that seller agrees to drop the price down to 470, which in this kind of market, it's not likely to happen, you're not going to get the property. So that appraisal is very important. And some agents are going to tell you to waive the appraisal up front. Be very careful with doing that, especially in this market right now. Sometimes you have to do it to get your offer accepted. Just make sure you got plenty of money in the bank if that's the case. If you don't, and you need to use down payment assistance, you need to use whatever it is, you have a limited amount of funds, be careful before you waive the appraisal. But again, this is a conversation between you, your agent, and your loan officer. Next slide, please. And before I forget it, and these are all your timelines here, if at any point you aren't happy with what the end result is, meaning, okay, well, we bought this thinking all I needed was 5,000 out of pocket. Now I'm hearing 10,000 or 25,000, and I don't have that money or feel comfortable with it. You have the right to cancel that transaction. These protections are put in place to protect you as a buyer, even more so than the seller, because the buyer is on the risk and on the hook for the next 30 years of making payments. So California is a very consumer protective state. I'm going to protect you as a buyer because you're taking a lot of risk when you purchase a home. Okay. The seller, on the other hand, is going to cash out and move on. Now they have duties to disclose. You have a duty to investigate. So 2 very important concepts to remember. We've already talked about all these timelines. Just a quick reminder: 3 business days for earnest money. 7, it talks about pre-approval. More of it is the seller disclosures. And then 17 days is to do all your inspections. 21 days is for the loan. This is the final, last, most important call between your agent and your loan officer. Final meaning, I want to know, do we have all conditions met and we know that we're going to get this house? Once we get to this point, if we know we're going to get this house, we know it's solid and we're going to be able to perform on the loan, we remove all contingencies. Now seller can't back out, buyer can't back out. We're getting our home. Now you can tell your brothers, sisters, parents, whoever, that you're going to be getting a property, because it's going to be very likely that you're going to close on that transaction. 5 calendar days prior to close, if we got repairs for electrical, water heater, and a roof agreed to be fixed, or termite to be fixed, 5 days prior to close of escrow, I'm going to hire a V or do a VP, verification of property condition, make sure those repairs are done prior to allowing funding and closing. Once it closes, it's very hard to make sure that things get fixed. Another just important thing to know, close of escrow is going to be the day that it confirms. The day before it funds, then it closes, you get the keys to your home. It's that easy. Next slide, please. Okay, how much time do we have? We got 4 minutes. It looks like it. All right, so do a final walkthrough with your agent. This is preparing for closing. So when you get in that final week, I talked about loan, we get that loan full approval. Then you're going to sign what's called the closing disclosure, CD. Closing disclosure will be sent to you usually by e-signature. Once you e-sign it, then you have 3 days before you can get your loan docs. Once you do your loan docs is going to be a huge stack of paper that you're going to sign, and it's going to be all the terms and everything you discussed with your loan officer up front. It should be almost exactly what you discussed from the very beginning. Interest rate, everything, closing costs, all that should be included in there. You're going to sign all those documents. Once you sign that, you know you're pretty much in that home stretch. It's very rare that after you sign all the loan docs that you don't get that house. But there are situations that can come up. So you want to always talk to your loan officer. Don't run up a credit card bill right before closing. Don't quit your job right before closing, right? If you get laid off, make sure that you speak to your agent and your loan officer as quickly as possible to make sure you can still get that home. These are things you want to do. And unfortunately, I've seen these situations happen, that if you've removed all your contingencies and you put your earnest money at risk, it's not an automatic thing that seller gets that money. So never just sign off and say, yeah, I lost, here's the money, let's go, right? There's mediation and arbitration that you would go through those situations first before ever just handing that money over. So never just hand it over, okay? Sign closing docs, pay for closing costs, call utility companies. This is very important to know. So within that final week, your agent should ask the other side, can I get a list of all the utilities? Once they get the list of utilities, you're going to transfer it so that you have your lights on and your water and everything working when you go to move in. Can get a little tricky at the end, and sometimes escrows get delayed. Could be on your end, could be on the seller's end. Usually it's on the buyer's end on their loan being able to perform. So it gets kind of tough on this, but this is all about communication between all your parties. It says, do not give your 30-day notice until you're 100% confident of your final loan approval. It's great advice. It's not done until it's done, right? And most of the time, I will give that 100% assurance roughly at about the 21 to 25 day mark. So what that means is a lot of times you're going to have an overlap. That's okay. I mean, I know it's going to be costly. Purchasing a home is costly, but you're better off being in that position versus thinking you're going to get a house, finding out the financing isn't going to work out, and you've already given your notice. Now you don't have a place to go. Okay. So next slide, please. And we're just about wrapping up. Closing costs, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. You're going to discuss most of this with your loan officer. So just make sure you have that conversation with them. And then there's certain things that through the offer that you're going to put for the seller to pay for. Okay, next slide, please. Congratulations, you're a homeowner. This is a family that was helped out through VCCDC, and VCCDC has helped many, many different families throughout the community. That if it weren't for their programs, I can't remember what the percentage was. It was like 70% of the buyers through VCCDC would not have been able to attain home ownership if it weren't for their program. So an amazing program, and wish you all the best. I hope I didn't scare you, but I'm here to give you the real talk. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now or at the if you want to shoot an email.
So we're gonna ask a couple of questions now.
Okay,
So we can take advantage of you being on here.
no problem.
So the first question that came in is, do I need a real estate agent if I'm purchasing a home from a family member?
Great question. Not always. Sometimes you can go directly through escrow. Okay. Sometimes it's a good idea to get an agent, but if you can find a reputable escrow officer, they can get you the paperwork. They can do things that can save you both money on the seller and the buyer side there for that. So my recommendation would find some good escrow officers out there. If you need any, shoot me an email, and I'd be more than happy to share a couple that I trust and I work with.
Thank you.
No
Very
problem.
particular situation, but you know, maybe
It's
a
out
common
there.
situation here.
Absolutely, it happens.
And the next question is, if there's multiple offers, if you have more of a down payment, do you have more of a chance of being accepted?
Awesome question. In many situations, yes, but not always. Okay. Sometimes, as I shared with you earlier, we had 10% down. The one they took in backup position, one had 50% down, so over $300,000 down. But it typically, when we're looking at offers, we're looking at who is the least riskiest. So the more skin in the game, the more money that you have down, the better. And that down payment assistance, when you get 50 plus, also looks strong as well. So it can be good and it can be a major advantage. The other things you can do to make yourself look stronger is, say you have retirement accounts. I'm only bringing this up because a lot of people don't know about it. Say they're only putting 5% down. I have a buyer right now putting 5% down, however, has a lot in retirement accounts. I won't say the exact number, but it's a lot. So I'm going to, when I present that offer, show that I have all these proof of funds of account statements, retirement accounts, and other things to show that I'm more solid than my 5% down. Because if there's an appraisal difference, my buyer can show that they can cover that difference, which is something I want to weed out as I'm looking through multiple offers. Okay.
Good, very good question, I would say.
Awesome.
Definitely a situation that's happening now with people,
Yep.
multiple offers trying to come in with more funds to make it more enticing.
Yeah, exactly.
And the next question was, can my earnest deposit come from down payment assistances?
EMD, that's a question you want to have for the loan officer. I don't believe so. I believe your EMD needs to be your money, that you need to write a check or be able to wire the funds. So just remember, once you have that, and sometimes it could be a gift. So that's a question that you want to check with your loan officer to see, can it be a gift from a family member? And sometimes they'll say, don't have that family member give you the money directly, wire it directly into escrow. Okay, so that may be a way of getting around it, as a gift from a family member directly to escrow, but it's not going to be through the down payment assistance using that money as your EMD. But it's a great question. You just make sure you can pay your bills, do everything else if you're able to. Can I just bring up one quick point? I know you gotta go, Gabby. Okay, just a quick point, because I know this is important in this competitive market right now. There's two things that sellers really want to know, and while they're trying to weed through offers, they want to understand. One is appraisal is a big thing, because we're seeing a lot of properties go out well over asking price. So if you can find a way, if you're, say you have not just down payment assistance, say you have 20% or more down payment, check with your loan officer, have them do what's called a DU approval. There's a way they can waive the appraisal where sometimes you don't even have to do appraisal at all. Okay, so that's huge to know, and it could give you a major advantage in getting your offer accepted. The concern is appraisal, and the second one is repairs. So those are the two things that if you can put a seller at ease that, hey, look, if we get it at this price, we're not going to ask for anything. That's likely going to be the end scenario anyways. That may be able to give you the edge to get your offer accepted. So it's repairs and appraisals. Just wanted to share that with everybody, because that's key to know about in this market and getting your offer accepted.
And the last question is, do you assist with mobile home purchases?
Great. Personally, yes, I do. And it is different. You have to, sometimes it's different type of financing. So there's two different types of the mobile home. One is if the mobile home is affixed to the land, or you get some land ownership. That way you can actually use down payment assistance. You can use regular traditional financing. If you're getting one that's like most mobile homes where it's not fixed, or you get no land and you're paying space rent, you have to get qualified by a mobile home lender. And Gabby, we're not, or BCCDC isn't doing down payment or mobile homes yet, right?
No, we're not.
Yeah, because I knew we talked about it before in the past, so just wanted to make sure. So yeah, so you would have to get somebody who does those types of loans, and then make sure you get qualified from them. Usually the interest rates are a little bit higher, and they want to know the year built of those mobile homes as well. Okay.
Good question, though. I definitely think mobile homes are something that are priced lower.
Yep.
Pros and cons to purchasing mobile homes versus condos and houses, but
Right.
you want to ask the industry experts, as Brandon mentioned.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm going to hold the questions for now, but again, I'm going to be sharing the contact information for both our lender, for Brandon, and our soon-to-be next guest speaker. But I
Awesome.
want to thank you, Brandon, for joining us
No problem.
during this section. Definitely a very important piece in the purchase process of trying to figure out what do we need to do to buy? So I
Thanks.
really appreciate your expertise here during our realty.
No problem. Thank you so much, Gabby. You have a great day.
No, thank you.
All right.
Have a good rest of the week.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, and we're gonna move the class along into our next section for our protecting your investment with insurance. And I'd like to introduce.
Okay. You're still there, Yvette. Amy, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Hold on, let me get my video.
Oh, man.
There we go.
So how bad was it?
It was good. I
was
can't
fun.
believe you went through it quickly. I was like, wow.
I was trying to speak through
Yeah.
that any of the time. It was a different style and approach than what I've done. This time I was just like, whatever's coming to the heart and the head, I'm going to get it out there, because it's not, when I go slide by slide, it doesn't do it justice. It's not, you're not covering any real relevant stuff, to be honest with you. It's a bunch of fluff. It's like,
Yeah.
you can read it line by line and people will really get nothing out of it, or very little of what's going to help them get a home right now. So I tried to do it in a way that didn't sound self-serving, and try to do it in a way that was in their best. I actually heard something from John C. Maxwell yesterday morning, where he talked about public speaking. And he said, look, when it becomes more about you than them, you lost. And you have to remember that. Always keep it about them, no matter what. Even though, yes, you want to promote yourself, the less you promote yourself, I feel the bigger impact you're going to have on them, because they're going to trust you. They're actually going to listen to you, start taking some notes. That was the most questions I've ever had. Usually by the time it gets to questions, people are like, all right, get this guy off of here. Let's go to the next one. And I'll be lucky to get one or two. So it was nice to see that people are actually asking questions. So trying to do a few different little things with it, but thank you for that feedback. What do you think, Yvette?
I liked it. I could see like when you got stressed at the end, like when you're like, great, I have 15 minutes and I know I have like a bunch of slides. So you like breezed over escrow and that, which I think is fine, because that's not really pertinent to what your job is. You know what I mean? You want to take an escrow course, that's a different one.
Yeah. Or if you want to do it the right way, make sure you call us up, give us an email,
You
give us a
know,
call.
so-
So
Although
you
what
also-
escrow officer too,
what's that?
but I said then they know what escrow officer they should use, like in half, like
Right.
I think it was good, and it was nice to see like that you had more questions.
Yeah, that was cool.
'Cause
What
I was on the end of
what's that?
the last one where you didn't have like that many.
Yeah, exactly. It was just like, all right, crickets. I'm like, yeah, that sucked. Oh well, let's go to the next, but it's normally I'm talking too fast. I was trying to actually slow it down before she told me that 15 minutes was up. But I still had some urgency through it, because there's just so much you can talk about. And I like sharing stories,
Yeah.
because I know that the stories paint the best picture than just reading this. And it's, even what I went through this weekend, you can't just learn just by sitting and listening and reading books, or just, you have to apply it to something. You got to go emotionally, you have to go through it under pressure, or feel stressed, or be happy or sad, or whatever it is. That's where you remember, that's where you learn, that's when you grow. It's through the emotions and going through things. So it's important. And it was a reminder to me going through it this week. I was like, damn, that was powerful. It was a lot of things. It was things I didn't like that I was like, yeah, I don't know about this. I'm ready to go, like ready to leave.
Yeah.
I didn't like certain ways that I felt, and I didn't like the way I felt certain people were coming at me. It's just like, all right, well, I didn't think my life was that screwed up, but I guess I got more problems than, I wanted
You're
to
all-
realize. But no,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But you start digging deep. You start thinking when you're a kid. You start thinking, you look through your mom's eyes and through your dad's eyes. I've never done that. I've never meditated on something like that. It was crazy. I was like, wow. Yeah, I got emotional quick, very quick. But it was a huge experience, to show me a lot of things of how I do want to grow, and really more than anything, raising my awareness. So it's kind of cool to be able to channel some of that, and hopefully, my goal, just so you know, when I do a home buyer thing like that, yes, obviously I would like to get business, but I try not to focus on that. My goal is, if it helps one person on there get a house, or make a better decision, or find the right agent, or whatever, that's my goal. Like, if there's one negative information, if they got to sit through and listen to me flap my lips, is there one person that's impacted? And if one is, then it's worth my time to get on here, create time to do it, and do that class. So, and, try to live every day by that. One day, is there somebody that I had a positive impact on? whether it's an agent, whether
Yeah.
it's a client, a family member, a friend. I think if we continue to live our lives like that, a lot of great things happen, you know?
Do you get calls? I would think you would.
After I think it was the first or second one I did, somebody reached out like immediately. It was crazy. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that never happened. Ever. I mean, I used to teach these in person. I thought I would rock it and like have fun with the class and do all this stuff. And it's like no calls, no emails. I'm like, really? Wow.
What?
Like I got standing ovation almost after it was done. Nothing. And but what did happen was I'd go to a car dealership and run into people that I didn't think I ever met. And they're like, I know you from somewhere. I was like, really? And they were in that class. Right. So I didn't realize I was starting to get much more visibility. And that's all I want. And when I do this, it's practicing my speaking under pressure. It's practicing articulating points and ideas. Can I stay on the train? I try not to go off on tangents, but it happens. I see things and it's like, oh, I want to talk about this. Well, I got to stay back on track. So I know because I've done it enough times what's coming up next. So I kind of know where I can channel it through. And that's why I try to set the expectation early on. Like, look, when we're flipping through slides later, it's not because I don't know it or I don't want to talk about it. You don't need to hear about it twice. And I started to do it a little bit when we were going through the timeline again. It was, repetitive and it's like, I don't need to do this, but I'm just hit what I want, move to the next,
Yeah.
don't worry about, did I say 100% of everything that was on every slide? No, but most people that do, you're going to fall asleep through that presentation. So can I bring some real talk? Can I bring something that's actually relevant to today without, and I used to always be so scared and I still say it, like, I hope I didn't freak you out into buying a home, but that's the reality of what it is out there. That's why you need an agent, because it isn't a walk in the park. This isn't something like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go shopping, pick that house, that's mine. Okay, let's go. Doesn't work like that. So yeah, I mean, any constructive criticism and things that you think that I can do better at or work on, be real.
No, it's just tough because it has to go so fast,
Yeah.
know? And it would be better if you could ask questions in
Mhm.
the moment.
For
You know
sure.
what I mean? Like, instead of having to be like, hey, do you have any questions? Is this making sense? Because people
You
they're
don't know.
not gonna they're not gonna wait to ask the question.
No. And you can't take a pulse. You're just going through
Yeah.
it. And I know a lot of stuff, especially when I get into the contract and talk about notice, bound, or perform and all that. It's like, that's technical stuff that can be overwhelming for a lot of people, but it's important
Yeah.
depending on where you're at. So when I would start it live, I would always get a raise of hands and say, okay, who's in escrow right now? Who has ever purchased a home before? Who's just starting out? And I get a temperature gauge of where everybody's at. And I could see like,
Yeah.
okay, I can talk more about these things depending on where these people are at. But usually for these classes, they're typically, I mean, they would get to 30 to 40 people every session, and they do it.
Right.
Now they're doing it. I have 2 more dates coming up, before June, and then they're going to do a bunch more. So I'm doing it at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. Yeah. And I like it. It's good. It kind of becomes a pain sometimes, but afterwards, I always feel like, okay, it didn't go too bad. Hopefully impacted somebody in a positive way. Last time, to be honest, I felt like I just got through it. Like I didn't really feel a whole lot of emotion with it, but that's where I'm glad I at least took some time to think before I hopped on, like, okay, what do I want to do today? And that John C. Maxwell just said, make it about them, not about you, and I try to be better with that. So did it sound like I was talking about myself too much, or did it seem that I kept
No, it
focused
didn't
towards it?
sound like a salesperson.
Good. Well, that's good.
Do you do the same thing every time?
It's the
Like-
same subject matter, but no, it's almost a different presentation.
So those slides are always different for you?
Slides are always the same. So I've changed it for my own, and I feel a better flow to it when I do that. I just haven't, by the time it always comes up, I don't have time to work on it more. So I just say, just run yours. So I'm going with their slides, which I don't want to say they stole. They've duplicated certain things that I used to cover when I used to teach it when I worked there. So I'm glad that they added those things to it, because that, in my opinion, it's not just biased because I wrote it, but those are important topics that they weren't talking about before. There's just more that I talk about now because times are always changing, so that's why I bring in the bucket A, bucket B. Yeah, try to talk about it. I know it's a lot, but these are key things. Like if I had 4 hours to do the presentation, I would hammer those points really good in a nice, slow, concise way to make sure everybody understood those concepts. Instead, it's just like rapid fire, trying to get it through because I know I'm running out of time and I know, that I got to do what I have to do. So the other gal, not Gabby, but her name's Francine. She called me and gave me an extra almost 20 minutes on my last one. I wasn't ready for it. I wish I would have known it ahead of time. I could have really slowed it down and went through it. And I still almost ran out of time, so because there's just so much content. But if they gave me an hour 15 to hour 20, it would be, I think, a better presentation. But it is what it, I got the opportunity. I'm not going to complain about it, is what it is. If anything, I want to cut some of those slides out so I can just keep it on the stuff I want to talk about. Like the realtor broker, I hate that slide to start with. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Not a good way to start,
I mean, maybe you could find a way to like make that brief, more brief.
Yeah, I'll just say
Before-
realtor, broker, just read it and just go through and go to the next. I think that's good
I
feedback.
will say, because like I have an admin class every Monday,
Mhm.
and no one asks questions. Literally 0 people, and like all she does is read her slides.
That's
So
all.
it's like what?
No, I was gonna say that's all most people do when they're doing the realty section of this or lending or whatever. And I'm not trying to hate on them. That's just all they know how to do. They read through side by
Yeah.
side. I hate death by PowerPoint. It's grueling.
Yeah, that's what it is. My class, like, because it's like, okay, you could just send me your PowerPoint and I could learn this myself.
It should
Yeah,
be
so I get.
points to trigger talking points. That's a good PowerPoint,
Mhm.
in my opinion, is like you'll see some and some you could have a little bit more written out. But for the most part, it's just like, all right, that's a trigger to make sure I talk about this story or this concept or this idea or whatever. That's, oh yeah, I want to make sure I talk about this. My dad, he's got his own point and he's great at presenting it, as you can imagine. I don't
Yeah,
find, sometimes I'll feel like I have a good time with it and it's good and powerful. Other times it's like, just, I don't know. It's more of like a
I
job, just get through it,
Can't you
I get you.
request more time?
I can, but again, it's something, so they do the marketing, they do the advertising, they put it together. When I worked there as the director of realty, I made it where we had an hour and 15 minutes. Now it's a 45-minute slot. I'm not going to push it and be difficult because they give me a lot of opportunities with this. So what I'm going to work on is just trying to get it a little bit better every time and focused on things and get more efficient with it, and then get to where I can just skip through, just like Yvette was saying on the realtor slide at the beginning, just read a couple things, move to the next slide. It's just, I hate starting with that. I think that's the lamest thing that does not create that much value, that it just starts off on a bad note. It's like, I would lose interest right out the gate just hearing that and be like, all right, this is going to be lame, I'd rather start off with, so what kind of market do you think we're in right now? And that's why
Yeah.
before I went to that slide, you saw how much time I spent before I even went to the first slide. I was really trying
yeah,
to picture and really trying to talk about things to get people a little bit more excited instead of just slide by slide by slide by slide. So that's part of it. But hopefully I didn't spend too much time before I got to that first slide.
no, it was
Try
good.
to remember what I even talked about before I got into it. Do you remember? You remember any of the points I brought up at the beginning?
I don't remember.
Kind of,
Hour ago.
yeah, it's all good. It was that.
I know you talked about homes are going into contracts within 3 to 7 days.
That's cool.
Yeah,
And
I didn't know we were going to be quizzed, Brandon.
Oh,
when you said to get the worst house in the best neighborhood, I thought that was great. I never heard that before.
I
So-
learned that from my dad. I can't take that one, but that's a good one. Get the worst house in the best neighborhood. You know why to do that, right?
Well, yeah, you get it at a lower value, and then you
Fix it.
fix it to get the best value later.
That's
Yeah, your equity is only going to go up.
It's cool that stuck out to you because I said it and I didn't explain it and I just kept it moving. It's like, hey, you got questions? Send me an email, and we'll talk more about that. But that's cool you caught that. And that was one of my favorite things that my dad would teach about. And he was just talking about getting good value. And you want the worst house in the best neighborhood because all the other house prices are going to pull your value up. Or if you get the best house in the worst neighborhood, now these other low values are hurting how high you can go and you've capped out. So you don't have more growth potential because everybody else is low. So it's going to hurt you versus the other way around.
Mhm.
It's just understanding, the comparable neighborhood values. But yeah, it's a good quick way to start painting that picture to get them. What you're trying to do with the buyer is educate them to be more open-minded. Because the more rigid they are, the more they think they got it all figured out. The more they do that, and you're going to get a lot of them. You get a lot of buyers. I know what I want. I'll know when I get into the house. So let's just say I'll just know, right? Well, they'll know because they get educated through the process after they start seeing homes of, okay, this one actually makes sense. Like, I like the bedroom size. I like the house size. I like the neighborhood size. And what a buyer ends up getting, and I was straight up with my buyer who's extremely analytical. I said, you may think you know what you want to get. I said, but what you end up getting is what's the best house I can get at the time I'm approved that I'm able to buy a home. What's the best house on the market? Whatever that best house is, that's what they get. So if there's only 5 houses on the market and one of those somewhat fits what they're looking for and they're extremely motivated, that's the house they're going to get. It's not this like perfect picture of a vision of a house that they know that this is what I'm looking to buy. And once I come across it, now I'm going to be able to get that house. It's just not likely. So we can't tell them that, oh, you're going to change. Oh, you're not going to be so stubborn later, But what we're good at is we get them to open their eyes more. We get them to see a little bit more than what they saw before. Before they were stuck on HGTV, had to be perfect. We got them to say, you know what? I can deal with some popcorn ceilings, or I could do this. And the more that they can be flexible, the more likely you're going to be able to do your job and get them the house that they're looking for. So we do a lot of that through the process, and that's through talks, appointments, showing them property and working with them through there, asking a lot of questions, always, not just on that first conversation, but when you get to meet them face to face, So just things like that. But it's fun times. Anything else? I don't want to keep you guys have already been awesome. Thank you for staying through that whole thing. I just wanted to make sure we got the most out of this.
I don't have any questions. I have to
So
go
if-
get Ollie in.
Okay.
So real quick though, if I have somebody that is interested to see this, this is what they're gonna see, just like how I watched it.
Are you talking about like the homebuyer class thing?
Yeah, like if someone's interested in
You can
partaking in it.
share the whole thing. There may be a way. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can edit it on here or not of cutting it. We'll see. I may be able to go through and edit it and just keep it just the realty portion. But what we should do is we should do our own home buyer class and just record it. And then we do it at our pace, the way we want to do it. And then you can share that with people. I would recommend that because to be honest, it was decent, but it wasn't, there was some good nuggets in there, but it wasn't everything that I would like to talk about in the order that I like to talk at the pace I like to talk about it. So it'd probably be a longer workshop, but let's make that a goal between you and I to come up with something like that. I don't mind doing all the talking for it, but let's set something up and create it. And
Wait, just us two?
it's us two. Yeah.
I'm like, where did Yvette go? I
Oh.
just knew she was gone.
To pick up Ollie. No, let's make that something on our action item list for you and I to do, because I think, here, I'll pause it now. I think we're good. I'm doing great, Lucy. How are you doing?
I'm good. I know you're very busy. Thank you for taking your time to calling me back.
No problem, man. I apologize because I know I wanted to call you yesterday and I still haven't heard from Tim. Have you heard from Tim?
Yes, actually yesterday morning,
Okay,
he was my first phone call.
good.
I discussed with him everything, and I also get his permission to talk to Alex,
Okay,
the loan officer.
good,
So I did talk to both of them,
good.
and long story short, sweetie, you're gonna kick me this.
Oh, no.
I over the weekend, Jose and I we have discussed it, and
Uh-huh.
it's more like a personal, emotional type of thing. I know I shouldn't do that, and you're always protecting me as a client. You know, that
Right.
that gets me the best interest. So, make a long story short, I look at the whole scenario.
Uh-huh.
If a team they can make it for 460, which is after I talked to him, I told him that I would like to talk to Alex. What's the status? And if they can make it for 460, I think I'm gonna go ahead and sell it to them.
No, that's good.
You know, I know that you probably can help me out, which is I definitely feel like if you have that ability, you can make me more money.
Right.
But you know, I'm more conservative and more like okay, if I have this one and money is free, I can do my other transaction. Or
Right.
maybe you can introduce me to do more. You know, you are in that industry, so you probably have a better something that you can
Right.
help me out to do the 1031 exchange.
Okay.
One, and then two, also don't forget, I'm not discouraging or saying my property is no good.
Right.
I'm just saying that, you know, I'm right next to the freeway,
Uh-huh.
which is I have a double pane window.
Right.
And it's not noisy,
Right.
but still location wise, not the greatest.
It has an impact. It does have an impact for sure.
Right.
I just
right,
showed
yeah,
one like that yesterday, and I still think
Really?
they're going to do well because of the low inventory, but it's right next to railroad tracks. She has 2 dual pane windows. It's double. They have, I've never seen that.
I have a triple pane window in my house here. It's more so because I'm facing west than the
Right.
sun. Yeah.
Right.
So back to that. I kind of can guessing that where the location that nearby railroad is that there's something called Los Angeles Street or something. There's a railroad.
No, that's actually a different one. This one's in Camarillo. It's the
Oh,
the
okay, I got
Meadows.
it.
Yeah, it's the Meadows, which is right next to the
Yeah.
34, and it's
Right.
great, beautiful property, priced
I
well.
know.
And my client
Very
wrote,
nice.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
I have a really good buyer. This buyer has almost 500 in assets. He's 28 years old, 480,000 in assets, retirement. He's a young engineer, no debt. I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding? You know, like it's crazy.
That's the best buyer ever.
Right, right. So he's looking, but he's also very conservative, and he's like, I want to do
Yeah.
full price. And I said, I get it. I said, we'll try it, but I'm
Oh
telling
my
you how
God.
this is gonna play out. And sure enough, it's
Yeah.
playing out exactly how I've told him, but we'll see,
Oh.
you know.
You're awesome. So back to that. So,
Yes.
so basically, I'm next to that, and then also my bathroom is all good. It's very good, mint condition
Good.
to use, but
Uh-huh.
still a little bit outdated.
Right.
You know. So and even though I remodeled everything else, but the bathroom
Right.
part,
Right.
it's clean, but it needs a little bit TLC
Oh.
as far as the update.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that I consider, you know, and seeing that there's one 525 523 is going to be closed,
Right.
but those are mint condition.
Correct.
So I kind of see the whole picture. Yeah, I might get more, but we have to go through a little time.
Right.
And team they have to deal with people coming to see the house and all
Right.
that. So and most important, that's not all regardless, but most important is I feel so sad. They are so close,
Right.
and then you know I'm not selling to them, and I will always remember that in my
No.
life. So you know,
Well,
just,
look, can I
go for it.
share something with you, Lucy? Number
Sure, please.
First and foremost, this is the best call that I could get right now. Not thinking about me and my interests by any means. For you and for Tim, it's the
Okay.
best thing I could hear. So you already know any way I can help, I'm here for you. I'm happy, so happy to hear that, because you know what, my fear was, to be honest with you, my concern was, we did what I shared with you, which I do feel is in your best interest. We did it. And then you got offers over 500. And then it was hard for you to say, I'm sorry, Tim, Tim, can you do 500? I didn't want that to happen. And so then I started
You
feeling,
read my mind, sweetie.
No,
That's
I-
another fear.
I started feeling guilty over the weekend after we talked. And I was just like, you know what? I said,
I feel like I want to give you a high five right now.
so
That's
you,
why I'm like, you know, I do have an annex, the buyer though. The
Right.
buyer annex pushed me over the weekend.
of course,
He text messaged me, Lucy, get into the escrow. I'm already go up to $10,000. What do you want me to do? Blah blah blah. You know,
right.
and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, you know, I just don't want to hear any more
No,
higher value. still, I will probably facing that people want us to pay more,
Right.
but then they will kind of criticizing my property, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not update. The
Right.
bathroom, and it's nearby the freeway, so let's go down to 480,
Right.
and something like that, So you're right. Oh my God, I
Yeah.
feel like I want to give you a high five.
Well,
Thank you.
no, Lucy, your heart is in the right place, and that's all. That's why this isn't. You don't need to worry about anything, and I don't.
Thank you.
I don't.
And
Yeah, we're
that's
good.
another thing, sure. And I will also share with you a little bit about what I talked to Alex about.
Sure.
So Alex, really nice guy, and oh my God, that's why I told Tim. I don't know how this is gonna leading us to, and I hope that you love this property, yeah, you will get it, all that. But if for any reason you don't get this one,
Right.
you have to stick with the Brandon.
Good.
He is the best. And with your loan approved, 3%, 5%, whatever down,
Right.
it's less. We
Right.
have a lot of cash buyer,
Right.
25% buyer up in the market.
Uh-huh.
But this guy, Brendan, he got the power. He got that unique personality or ability. He can talk to people, and everything don't make sense. He's not bullshitting. I told him
I
that
appreciate
if
that.
I'm you,
Yeah.
I'm locally there. He's my lifetime agent.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Lucy. That
So Alex was sharing with me that, yeah, Lucy, we can push to 49 point something. I guess they have a ratio rate
right.
to another $10,000. So he said that it possibly will work.
Good.
So I said, oh, I'm so glad. And then, but I was pinching myself like before I call Alex, Tim. He kind of melts my heart, and I was telling him that let me talk to him. I get your permission to talk to Alex and blah blah blah. And he's like, oh, Lucy, can you just sell me for $450? That's how you were gonna sell it to Alex, the buyer, for
Right.
$450. Isn't that? I feel like things all happen for a reason. If that buyer Alex never tell me that he's gonna raise up the rent,
Right.
he doesn't care about if Team they move.
Right.
Maybe
You may have
already
worked
get
with them.
into the escrow
Right.
450, right?
Right.
And it all happened. Maybe Team, if God is watching. They have to be the one that owns this property.
Yeah.
And it kind of wake up me.
Right.
The whole thing, I try to protect my tenant.
Right.
And then here, this guy, yeah, they will take over tenant, but they don't care if they stay or not. They want to
Yeah.
hire the rent. So, but then, Alex, I say that, no, I'm just going to put it in the market.
Right.
Team, whatever. So the whole process, they went up another $10,000.
Of course.
We can go in. Yeah. So here, Tim, if I sell it to him $450, I like him, I love them, but they are not my kids.
Right.
They are my kids. And then so Jose, now over the weekend, this is so hard weekend for us. I said, how can I help those kids if they only because over the weekend he shared with me that's top 450 is what they can afford,
Right.
or they can approve.
Uh-huh.
So I'm thinking, let me think. I know 18 years ago I did one for a relative,
Uh-huh.
which is I carry at that time I carry 40,000.
Right.
So remember 2000? Oh, you're still too young. 2003, 2004.
Oh, yeah, that's when
And
I actually 2003, 2004 is when I started in real estate. I started in
Okay.
2004. So I'm young, but I
So you
I
might remember a little bit.
yeah.
The market is a little different than now, but it's very
Similar.
similar because a
Similar.
lot of buyers.
Yeah.
And then they try. So long story short, I have a buyer 580,000,
Uh-huh.
and then my relative only can qualify for 450. So I carried a note for 40,000, but that's because he's my relative,
Right.
right? So I was thinking that okay, with this $10,000 difference, it will be so ashamed and so lifetime only come one time chance
Mm-hmm.
for them not to buy this. So I'm like, okay, what about I carry that 10,000 and have them 3 years, so 2-3 years to pay off, the 10,000, no interest.
Uh-huh.
So that's just talking and thinking.
Right.
What can be done.
Uh-huh.
So that's why the next day I talked to Tim and I talked to Alex,
Right.
and but really bottom line, I don't want to do that. I really don't. And I asked the team, do you have any family member, mom, dad, cousin, you know,
Uh-huh.
try to gather that $10,000.
Right.
And in the end, I said, 455.
Uh-huh.
It really won't just make sense to me. I have this buyer want to get into the escrow for 460.
Right.
Lucy, you said 455? You said 455? And I said, oh, Kim, I'm just thinking, we are talking, okay?
Right.
For sure. And then Jose, my husband, is pinching me on the side, said, no, what are you doing? See, that's my,
Right.
Brendan,
I
that's
know.
exactly how I realized that how important
Yeah.
you as an agent
Thank-
in the transaction. A lot of times, I'm very soft to heart,
Mhm.
but then, you will probably stop me right there to say, no. They can try their family member first.
Right.
Oh my God. And I told him, no. Don't quote me on that. Let me talk to Alex first.
Right. Right.
So he kind of and then sure enough, after I talked to Alex, Alex shared with me that they can do it,
Good.
but he said he just have to recalculate everything.
Right.
So I was so happy. I text messaged him, and
Good.
Tim said, yeah, he feel like he's a failure, or there's an English word, defeated. I
Uh-huh.
don't even know that word, so I triggered. Okay. He feel like he's been defeated, whatever. And I encourage him, don't feel that way. You're first time buyer. Don't let this go. I have the same exactly tenant,
Uh-huh.
a similar situation 2 years ago. I was pushing him.
Right.
I was say like, try a little harder. Get it. And now after 2 years, he contacted me. Lucy, I should have listened to you.
Yep.
And at that time, I wanted to sell it. It was a 2-bedroom condo in Colton.
Right.
It's not a good area,
Right.
but it was back then. I want to sell him for 135.
Right.
Now it's 200,000.
Exactly.
He was like that's like a lifetime. Only one time happened to him,
Yeah.
and now he's still renting, and
Uh-huh.
and I encourage him still do it, and then I will keep you on my list. If I have 7 units in the same complex, so
Yeah.
if anybody move out, and I will contact you, see if I can help you out.
Yeah.
But back to the subject, yeah, that's okay. So that's the whole thing with
Good.
him now. So
No,
I
I'm
just
ve-
want to give you an update.
And no, I appreciate that because I was going to reach out to you and I didn't. I wanted to talk to Tim, but I was hoping that you and Tim and
Yeah,
Alex were
yeah.
already in conversation. I gave Tim, I know how pressuring it is on his side as well. I know it's a lot. So I didn't. Right. So I didn't want to add anything to that. And I see that he's being very proactive on his part. He's been waiting for Alex very patiently. I'm glad Alex is more involved now. And Alex also recognizes, and I had a good talk with him, just the situation. And he realizes what you're trying to do for him. And that's the last thing I want to finish with is what you're doing for Tim is something, and it's not about the price, it's not about any of it. What you're doing for him is huge because in this market, in this opportunity, Tim likely would not become a homeowner. That is the likely scenario. So it's only your heart. Right.
That's what I told him. If you for some reason this one didn't go through,
Right.
don't give up on buying. Stop
Yeah.
paying the rent.
Right.
You already now that we already know that you quarterback for 450.
Yeah.
Stick with Brendan. He will find you something.
Yeah.
And but still, I say, but don't be discouragement
Yeah.
with your down payment
Right.
situation.
Right.
And not only that, you're 1099 and
Yeah.
a little bit on the W-2.
Right.
God reject is like huge.
Right.
Not getting it, but you have to have the right agent. Yeah.
Right.
If this one didn't go through, but I hope you will go through because sometimes it's a lifetime opportunity. you
Right.
know?
It may be, and that's what I mean. It's not impossible, but it's going to be very difficult, and there's just not enough out there, and the prices keep moving up, and these multiple offers, unless it's a situation that needs a lot of work, and if it needs a lot of work, then and he's open to it, then there's a possibility, or if it's 2 bedrooms or less. But
Exactly.
yeah, but a 3
And then,
bedroom,
it
3
will not
bedroom's
make
not going to
sense.
happen.
Yeah. Oh, the 3-bedroom right now. He already have 2 his best friends living there,
Right.
helping to pay
Right.
the mortgage. So this is like a win-win situation for him. And
Yeah.
it's just that that's why my last thought is, what can I help these young kids?
Yeah.
I cannot go down to 455
Right.
and it doesn't make sense. I have a buyer right there. I can get close escrow in 30 days.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is at 10,000. But do I want to? I really don't want to do that because I like to do business like clean. Okay,
Right.
that's it, and then move on.
Yep.
And that's something that really is for family member to help.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, sweetie. So recap real quick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna to see how everything and if we get into the escrow,
Right.
Will you be the person, or do you have a assistant that I can?
Yeah, I have,
will-
well, I have my TC, Yvette, so, she handles all the paperwork. I just need to, do you have access to the paperwork without names on it? Cause ours all have my name on it. And that's the challenge with it.
Oh,
Do you have it? Do you have forms without it or?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Everything is Benjamin provided me. I can share with you, Alex. Originally, we were gonna put in for 450. I think I have that still
Right.
on file, and I can share that. But
Because what you could do, I mean, and this is complete, you can still take care of Benjamin and go through Benjamin. It's not, I'm okay. So I appreciate you wanting to involve me.
no,
I'm
I
happy.
will. In Chinese way, we say a red envelope appreciation.
Well,
Whatever,
thank you.
Nah.
Nah.
Okay, okay, so
Because
okay,
because normally I would pay, and actually
Yeah.
Yvette is more than my assistant. When we do regular files and I do my regular commission on if she just did TC, and this was before I hired her as like an assistant partner,
sure.
I would give her $350 a file. That was as a
Oh,
TC.
same thing, huh?
Right. But now she's a part of like my actual team. We actually, I give her 15% of everything that I do because we do, not
Right.
doing an insane amount of business, but we do a lot. We do good amount of transactions. I think we did 21 last year, which is a good amount for, with a family of 5 and, little ones and coaching and all the other good stuff that I do. But
Nice.
she's huge. She's awesome. She worked for Tina Hare, Tina Hare does 2.1 million. She does a lot of more part too. 2.1 million in commissions a year.
So, sweetie,
Yeah.
the reason why maybe I don't have to worry about that because
Right.
I'm more concerned about Tim.
Right.
He's a first-time home buyer,
Right.
and with you guiding him to sign here, sign there,
Uh-huh.
maybe he feel more comfortable.
Right.
Or what do you think?
I-
I can hire the TC. It's the same price anyway, 350.
Right.
Not using your name. Just
Right.
Benjamin did the same thing too. There's no name on him. It's a sell by owner. Every responsibility I take it.
Right.
So you think that will be possible that she can do it?
Well, I'd have to check. Let me check. Do you have a particular escrow company that you use when you
I
do this?
do.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right on my street.
Okay.
Diamond Global Escrow. I live in Diamond Bar, and then they if I'm a seller, they always take care of all my. They give me 30% discount. by the
That's
way.
good. Yeah, no, that's good to have. So, if you want, if they provide the paperwork, because so like I sold to my family, so we did it through, was a little bit different
No, I
because,
don't want your name to. If your
Right.
name on it, you need to get at least
Right.
like 2%.
Right.
Presenting.
well, right.
buyer or
Well,
seller, right?
that's why, so what I was gonna suggest is if your escrow officer has the purchase agreement, just a blank purchase agreement without my name on it, I can
Okay.
help point it out there and we can at least do it through DocuSign or something, so that we can
Okay.
have Tim sign it and I can explain it to him and make clear to him that he knows I'm not representing him, but just kind of
Okay,
guiding
okay.
him as a consulting
Okay.
fee,
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
but we have to get the
But I
paperwork from
don't-
escrow.
That's just a worst case scenario. You see,
Uh-huh.
Tim and I, we haven't discussed that part yet.
Okay,
Because with the Alex, he is an investor. The buyer, and
right,
he's an investor. He knows he doesn't need me to babysit over.
right,
And then since it's a sale by owner, I want to be fair with all the buyers.
Right.
This buying a home is a huge thing.
right,
So therefore, I'm just thinking.
right.
Maybe he doesn't need it because I remember he told me one of his uncle in Northern California is
Correct.
a realtor too.
Yep.
So okay.
Well,
I
he
got
may,
it.
he may be able to talk to him, but I still don't think that even the uncle, even though he can guide him through the process,
I know.
you know,
I feel
and-
more comfortable you.
Well, I'm just saying, even though he can do it, he's still gonna, unless the uncle, no, so all of us as the licensed agents, we all have, it's through our car forms, and that's where our name automatically prints out. The only way is if we white it out, which is you never want to white out contracts, you know, and especially when it comes to for real estate purchases. It could come back that it looks like fraud, you know, so you would never,
Right.
you always put a
Really?
line through, yeah.
You're
Don't-
so
don't-
innocent. Before, I always write out things.
I
And
know,
then sale by
no.
owner, you pay,
Yeah.
you sign, I sign here, escrow. Go
Yeah.
With the escrow instruction.
You got to be careful with that because
Be
it's
careful.
yeah, when I you know, because I've always been in office management, so all the issues, all the lawsuits, all that came up to my table, right? So it was over 400 transactions a year, and that's why over the last 4 years I oversaw 1,600 transactions. So that's why, you know, that's why I share as
And
much as I do,
Brendan, and
you know.
Sure,
Yeah.
definitely. So I will be sure that there's no white hour or
Right.
anything like that. Brendan, real quick,
Uh-huh.
you know, with the buyer, Alex, him and I, we talk on the phone. There's
Right.
2 things I don't apply for him.
Uh-huh.
One is homeowner home warranty, which is you know, everything's all in working condition and all that. So a lot of times buyer and seller we will provide that, if you know.
Right.
But this is for sale by owner, but I know what, and a lot of times the home warranty that their 101 is it's not covered.
Right.
Whoever goes there to check it out, you still have to pay them $70-$80, and to me that's wasting money.
Right.
So and then another one is do you think that loan, which is I forgot to ask Alex, you know, the termite report. You see, this is a condo, so outside is all HOA take care of it.
Uh-huh.
Inside the house, we know already there's no rotten wood, everything is no leaking, no nothing
Uh-huh.
everywhere.
Right.
The only thing is, they might can go to the attic to check on the termites and stuff.
Right.
But last time, I think when I did the AC service,
Right.
I had a guy check it real quick. You know,
Right.
since they're gonna be open the attic,
Uh-huh.
so everything's good. So I told Alex that they're long. I talked to their loan officer. Sometimes when I have a buyer who is a FHA loan,
Uh-huh.
they require test clearance.
Right.
But so I forgot to ask Alex. Loan officer Alex said yesterday, would that be one of the requirements that lender will look? Because with the buyer Alex, he said their loan is not required that. So
Right.
it's okay that I don't provide that report. It's kind of less work on my side.
Right.
So you think that's okay?
See, I have to now's the part
See,
where I have to
With your
step.
profession, pretty
Right.
much know your answer. You
Right,
have to,
Right. Well, no, the thing is I have to, this is where I can get in trouble in terms of giving you advice, because this is where it gets complicated.
Got it.
Um,
Okay. No,
You have it
no
on,
pressure.
right. No, it's okay. On the buying side, there are a lot of things. He is a first time buyer, and there's certain things that should happen to try to limit your liability on your part, and vice versa on his part, even though you know everything about the property and you're doing that. So this is where it just gets to, it's what do you know, and it's, I'd have to talk to my dad to even see what kind of adjustment, because again, if we're associated with it, then liability goes up for us in terms
Oh,
of
I got it.
representing.
Okay.
But if in terms of already what I'm hearing you say, I already know there's certain things that if you did it the right way, you're gonna have more peace of mind of knowing that you have nothing to worry about after this closes. Because the reality is as we talked about before, after this closes, and hopefully everything's good, market stays good and strong, but we know it's cyclical. And we also has saw what happened last time. So when you sold your homes back after the market had crashed before, you know, in 2007, 2008, did you ever have any buyers come back after you or try to say, hey, these things happened, or whatever the case was? Good.
Only one time is they don't even come back to me. They come back to the termite company.
Right.
Oh, I got it. Okay. Brendan,
You see?
just
Okay.
learned. Okay, I got it. I'm
So-
gonna have a clearance report. Got it, got it.
So the key, basically, Lucy, if you want more peace of mind, I would, it would be, I'm just telling you, just as a friend, I'm not trying to push myself. You already know I'm willing to walk away from everything here, period, and just have you be good. I can talk to my dad and see, but I still would only be on one side. And what you would have to decide is, would it be better for me to represent the buyer and help him through it, since you know a lot, but I could still help you. I just can't represent you. And then
No,
keep
no,
it
no.
and but I can ask him, because yes, normally it's 2 and 2. This is different because I'm trying to think of like a consulting, but also where you can still have a little protection. It's not the same as if, so long story short, if I represented you, you have our E&O insurance as well, on top of us protecting you through the process, which would be well worth it for just to have that, right? Now, if I represent him, you don't have that E&O insurance. You don't have it, but I at least can help guide him through the process. And you know enough, and you also know the way that I work, that I'm not an unfair person, that I'm going to do what is in everybody's best interest, right? But at least then he can have somebody who can advise him through the process and help give you some protection if something were to be discovered in the future, where he knows that, okay, you can say he had his representation and at least fall back on that. So if I'm going to ask you first, because I don't want to ask my dad if this isn't something, and it's not to try to, squeeze anything. It's nothing about that. This is about
Yeah, yeah.
trying to be smart of doing it in a way that is going to limit your liability. I can ask him if we don't put it on the MLS, so we keep it completely off market, just with Tim. If I represent him, if I can do it for 1%, just the one in total, and then I can have my name on all the paperwork and contracts. I'm not advising you, but make sure that you get all the right paperwork, and then he has protection. So and you don't even need to say yes or no now. Talk it over with your husband, see what you think. And if it makes sense, let me know. And then I'll talk to my dad, because I don't even know if he's going to okay me on this, but my dad listens to me because it's his name on it's his name on the brokerage. Does that make sense?
Oh, got it. Okay, that's my question.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's the broker. Okay, got it.
He's the broker.
Of course.
I'm working on my brokers right now. I actually have 2 more classes, so I'll be
with
done
you.
pretty soon.
So smart. You'll have your
Thank you.
license. Yeah.
Yeah.
So sweetie, I think I know now. If, you kind of refresh my memory at that time.
Yep.
The buyer 2013. I remember. I
Uh-huh.
saw the historical home in Ontario.
Uh-huh.
I have it also for sale, the same situation that we're going through right now.
Right.
So at that time, I thought that was one of the requirements. But all through these years, I noticed that the termite wasn't. It's still something that buyer and seller both agree.
Uh-huh.
But at that time, I thought it was everything I go by book.
Right.
So the good thing about it is I provide a termite clearance.
Uh-huh.
Everything all clear.
Good.
And within like 6 months or something,
Uh-huh.
they noticed that the Reza Foundation,
Right.
there's a dry rot, that water damage.
Yeah.
And something like that. So they're not calling the seller. They call the termite company.
Yeah.
And the termite company give them 1 year warranty at that time.
Right.
I guess all the termite company 1 year.
Uh-huh.
So they went back and treated, and that was it.
Yep.
And how do I find out? Because I always use the termite company to do the clearance report.
Right.
And then they're very good company. And okay, so to be a peace of mind. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
I
And
think I'm
it's
gonna provide it.
Lucy, there is no, believe me, you see how I work. There's no pressure on me at all. This is the best way that I can still try to help you, even though if anything were to ever happen, I'm not representing you, because we couldn't do that for 1% for both sides. It wouldn't, even
Right,
when you
I
talk,
know,
when
I
you
know.
talk about
That's
when you talk about that situation, I'm like, I'm okay. You guys do this on your own. Best of luck to you,
Yeah,
because
sweetie,
I don't want
to
to
be
be tied to it,
I like you, if this one, because I tried it at home for sale by owner, and
Right.
luckily I was doing pretty well on
Yeah.
this side. So really now I just need a paperwork, and I totally
Right.
understand the liability part and stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I say that I want to make sure the TC, make sure all the paper, buyer, seller, we both need to sign,
Right.
and both understanding. And with the buyer Alex, the reason why I feel so comfortable because he's an investor. He do this all the time.
Uh-huh.
But with the team, I'm more concerned.
Right.
Like, does he have any questions and stuff? So that's the some part that I need to talk to Tim also.
Yeah,
I
well,
can tell him that-
talking to Tim, but also your risk assessment is already, your red flags are coming up. The investor, even though it's not the best situation for Tim liability wise, could be better, could maybe not. And sometimes, see, these are other things, and these are tough lessons I had to learn while I was in the management position. I had another good agent of mine who was doing business. They accepted an offer, and it was a savvy investor, even represented by an agent. And the seller realized they made a mistake, was trying to get out of the contract. This particular buyer, agent, and seller, or whatever you want to call it, they looked for these opportunities. They sued them. They went for it, sued them, and then just went for it. Now, Tim, I wouldn't be worried about with that, just off of your knowledge and knowing him. My bigger concern would be, after it's done, you want to make sure it's clean. And yes, all your intentions are good to help him out, but how are you and it's more than just paperwork. How are you making sure you're going through the process to show? Like, even when you talk about the home warranty, if you were my client, I would say do the home warranty. Yes, I think it's a scam in a lot of ways, but do it, because that shows that you're trying to do a little bit more good faith of protecting the buyer, who's a brand new buyer who doesn't know anything about fixing things or whatever, if something happens in the next year. So if it went in front of the court, they would look at this
But
and
they already
say,
living there.
they are living there, but still,
Yeah, they're living there 1 year.
it shows some good faith, because what's likely going to be
Yeah.
the case is, as you know, you go through the transaction, there's only a few things you have to fix by law: water heater, smoke detector, carbon monoxide. That's it. Everything else is negotiable. So just like as you brought up termite, do I do termite?
And
Do I
those are
not
all
do
in
termite?
place.
Right. But do I
Yeah.
do termite? Do I do that? Do I do any of this?
Yeah.
And you got a first time buyer here. So he has to know and feel confident. Yes, he's got his uncle. Is his uncle going to advise him and say, okay, you already see how I work. How does his uncle work? Does his
Oh,
uncle
no,
work like
but
me? Right.
I already know your answer. No, Lucy,
Right.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It will have to go by the. Even I'm a buyer, regardless yes or
Right.
no, I still want to see the clearance. Same
Yeah.
thing. It's just that I'm a little bit knowing that the buyer has no competition. That's why I'm kind of try to squeeze the problem, the cost, and also the hassle I have to go through. But I totally
Right.
understand. It's
Well,
not a lot of money,
but in being completely honest, and I'm not trying to, I think you're an amazing person with a big heart. And but I also know from our first talk to where we're at right now, and even from the 450 to 460, a lot of that has been because I have been able to help put him in the right touch with the right person. Not to try to take the credit from it, but it's that because of that, he's already looking at, well, but even more than that, I'm not even just speaking on my behalf. It's originally when we first talked, it was 420 to 440, and it was like, well, let's not discourage him yet. Let's get him to go. And he got to 440. Now he's up 20,000 higher than that. So when somebody comes up that amount of money, even though he's willing to do this, and I'm telling you, based on, I know you've done a lot of deals. I told you I did 21 this last year. I've done 130 plus or 140 plus, in my career, and I've overseen over 1,200 just in the last 4 years. I've seen a lot of situations, and with all that, I know when somebody moves up that much just to get the house, that usually sometimes they aren't the best buyers, because they feel they overpaid, because they feel that they were taken advantage of in the market and they were pushed up. He didn't want to go up that high. Even going from 455 to 460, you can already see 455, I'll do it. He's already getting excited about that. So when I see these types of things, again, I do it the way I do it, in terms of getting it on the market and making sure that I have some competition and have some other things. I can still, if I want to do what I feel is right to my heart, I still honor that price regardless of what else comes in, right? I can do that. But there's also things now you can say, but I have backup 1, backup 2, backup 3 in place. So if you ask for anything, this is just the market. If you do this where it's just you and him, and then you have this Alex investor as the potential backup, I don't know if that's enough. But if it were to be something, I always have to think of going to court. It's right. It's those things. So it's there's a lot involved, and it's more than just the peace of mind. It's if you go his route, somebody probably should be advising him to an extent, just to give you some type of layer of protection. It's hard to get somebody who can come in and do everything and represent both sides for minimal money, but
Yeah.
you gotta look at the big picture. And I do think 460 is a very
Yeah, see,
fair
that's why
price,
I'm thinking maybe I think too much for Tim, like I need to
Yeah.
talk to him because with a buyer Alex, I don't need to do all that.
It's true.
And we already agree that no home warranty, no termite report.
Right. Well, he's an
But-
investor. He gets it.
Yeah.
He knows the
So,
things to tell
yeah.
you as an
So
investor.
with him,
Right.
I don't mind, but I know you know what, Brendan, you're talking. I know that $1,000 is not enough for you. That's why I said that if for any reason this one thing goes through, then listing definitely. And then who knows that if Alex, the buyer, will be still there. Over the weekend, he was looking around, and I even introduced him to go to buy the brand new home.
Right.
Basically, if Tim and we doesn't work out,
Right.
I really don't care if Alex buy or not.
Right.
Because at that time, Tim will understand. I did try my best.
Of course.
You have to help me out to do open house.
Right.
So at that time, I know that I'm gonna put it in the market.
Mhm.
And of course, if the Alex is still interested, I like I told him it was a 470. I told him that if we want to go over and that's why he come back to me 460.
Right.
So and just share with I keep forgetting to tell you. All this time has agent every day at least one phone call that local agent will try to call me.
Of course.
And this lady, she actually mentioned Alex's name also, same as you. I said, okay, I don't know if that's the same Alex about the loan,
The down payment assistance.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that she's local. She said, Lucy, if you have this buyer 460, if I put your listing in the market,
Uh-huh.
you don't net out 460, you don't pay me.
Right.
I say, wow. Basically, just same as you, so confident that
Right.
she can sell it for more than $499.
It's the market. That's the market
Yeah.
right now. That's why now everything that I'm saying is 100% true.
Definitely, and from day one, yeah.
Yeah.
But so she said $499. Let me put it in the market. You'll be amazed. And if you don't net out, which is including the buyer agent fee,
Uh-huh.
and if you don't net out 460, that you don't need to pay me anything,
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So basically, I hear you, Brendan. Your service is much more than that $1,000, whatever.
It's but it's more.
but-
It's not about like even when I say the 1%, I have to talk to my dad about it because his name is the brokerage is tied into this,
No.
and
Please don't.
right.
Please, I feel insulting him.
No,
Please
and
don't-
it's not.
don't
Well,
ask him.
no, but he
no.
he would trust me on my gut instinct. But the more I shared with him that you're representing yourself, you're an investor, that I could possibly convince him to do it. But that's why I wanted to make sure that's what you wanted to do. I'm not going to say anything if you're going to do it on your own and just try to see how things work out. I'm trying to. It's always there's
Yeah,
there's
I
a
know,
saying
I know.
as you know with
I will definitely keep it as a consideration.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as of now, I feel like the paperwork hard.
right.
If you would like to share with the lady that you work with,
Yvette.
that would be great because
Yeah.
she's a locally.
Right.
Team can kind of coordinate. Well, everything's all by computer. now,
Yeah, you
but,
can do that. It's just yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
gonna be tough. So we'll figure it out. Just you let me
I
know
don't know
what
if
it is.
she wanted to do that because I'm paying the same money anyway.
No,
And with the Benjamin, I can always
Right.
give him my other business also.
right.
But he doesn't care.
Yeah, well
So,
that's what I mean. Same with Yvette. She's got plenty of TC business and then
know,
she
I
does
know.
business with me. So it's not like she needs the $350. She would do it
yeah,
more.
I
She
know,
would do it more to
exactly.
help me out. But I don't
Exactly.
because it's not, my highest and best use of my time is listing, selling property, or working
Yes,
with buyers,
definitely,
so I
definitely,
work usually with about 5 to 7 clients at a time. Even Tim, I don't consider him a client. I've helped him, I pointed him in the right direction.
That's
Um,
why
No,
I will.
right.
Yeah, I know it's not a lot, but it's just my appreciation to you.
I,
you
I
know,
no, I
for
appreciate that,
all this
Lucy,
time.
but it's not necessary, and I appreciate it. More of my concern, you're doing all the right things, and I get you want to make as much money as you can, and you got when you hear Alex, who's going to tell you, I'm talking about the investor, chirping in your ear and saying the things that you want to hear, it's going to make you think, well, I can already get it here, so I need to at least match that here, and it's two different, it's apples and oranges. You have a first-time buyer versus an investor. And with a first time buyer, this isn't a frugal investor. You have to still make sure you do it the right way and that they know and feel confident that they can go through all this. And working with BCCDC is not easy either. I love Alex Vega. He's great person, but they do a lot. And they do down payment assistance and they do a lot of things. So it's hard to even get down payment assistance accepted in this kind of competitive market. I just closed one, but it was grueling towards the end. There wasn't calls, there weren't certain things coming in, and it wasn't Alex Vega. It was actually a different guy, Ricardo, the other guy. And I was getting upset, so I had to go to the top. But again, these are things I do when I'm a party to the transaction, not as a consultant.
Right.
So
Right.
there's a lot of, we say it in our listing presentations. It's more than you've made a lot of calls. You've done a lot on the beginning side of it. That part anybody can do right now. And I'm not minimizing what you've done. I'm saying any agent, the gal who called you, she can put it at $4.99. She'll get the action. You're going to net what you want to net. Legit. You will. Anybody can do that. But who's going to do it and do it the right way and make sure they protect your interest all the way
In
through?
my mind,
Right.
I actually already told her that, I really don't want to waste your time.
Right.
If I want to put in a listing, I already have somebody locally
Right.
in my mind, which
Well,
is
thank you.
Brandon.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate that.
Straight
but-
out told him because I know that I don't want to waste people's time,
Right.
But every day, I got a phone call every day like that.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted to
It's-
snowball.
Well, and I mean, that was how, in being completely honest with you, that's how I got your number as well, is I have
Oh, yeah.
I have access. No, it's
Yeah.
to the for sale by owners.
So amazing. They even call my legal name right off the bat.
Right.
Zhang Huan Huang, Mr.
Yep.
Zhang Huan Huang.
Yep. And that's how we got in touch. But I did have an
Brandon.
investor, and I'm glad we talked. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
I know.
What
We
did you want to say?
And then not only that, even with this, see, in your industry, in real estate business, it's all connected.
Right.
Through you, I know Alex, and then after talk to him, I have 3 tenants.
Yeah.
I already so excited and tell them about him.
Good.
Oh, they were so happy.
Right.
Yeah, because he's an amazing guy. Too.
Right.
So sweetie.
Yeah.
Back to the subject. If we go moving forward, which is I have very very good feeling about team buying this and
Me
moving
too.
forward.
Right.
$2,000. How's that sound like to you? $2,000.
No, I appreciate that, but do you want me to represent him for 2,000?
No. I don't want you to do any presentation.
You don't.
I want you to help us to do all the paperwork, which is you have that lady in
Yvette,
mind.
Yvette,
that do
right.
that. I can contact with her,
Okay.
but you just helping going through the transaction if a team needs to more explanation here and there.
Right.
Or, and then let's say I don't want it to do termite, I don't want it to buy home warranty.
Right.
Let him understand. Well, I already told him, but he's like, of course, he's a
Right.
first home
We'll
buyer.
ask those
Yes.
questions.
Yeah.
Let me. I
but
still have
you
to.
think about it.
Yeah,
You think
I have
about
to.
it.
Well, it's more than me thinking about it. I have to talk because my dad is the broker of record. I have to
Right,
still get
but
his okay because
You don't.
I know,
sure,
but
you don't.
well-
You don't. There's no name in it. It's like the same thing as
Correct.
what I
so
what I hired.
right, but what I have to ask him still is
Mhm.
because with the broker agency relationship, any money that comes, no money is supposed to come directly to an agent. It's all supposed to go through the broker to the agent.
Oh.
Period. People will
But
take
you
money.
are,
I know.
Okay. How
As-
about the friends help? Friends help. We give a appreciation.
Right.
Gift card.
Wha-
A dinner card.
Right.
Whatever.
Well, that's what I just need to make sure. I always anytime it's anything, I have to make sure it's okay with him. So as long as he tells me that, then I can say yes. But if he says no, then I have to respect that. I'm
And
not
then,
I'm not the broker.
Also,
you know?
very important
Uh-huh.
thing is I do have all the information.
Uh-huh.
I also have some realtor friends
Right.
who can help me to give me all the information.
Okay.
But since you're locally, and it takes me 2 hours to drive there,
Right.
and to meet with the appraiser. Usually, when the appraiser comes, I will be there.
Right.
I will give him all the. You know how that goes.
Right.
Even so, I know that 460. There's no doubt that we can appraise that high, but still, through the transaction, I like to be very conservative,
Right.
very, very detailed with everything. Bottom line is we want this to work. Without the transaction, nobody gets money.
Right. No, well, if it
So-
doesn't close, then it doesn't happen. But
So that's it.
let me, I
That's
just,
another thing.
I just have to ask. And then if you need help with things like that, with the appraisal, those things, again, I need to check with them, but it also can't appear like I'm a party to the transaction, so that's where it's like, I have to see, because let's just put this for example, say I have a TC who's not a licensed agent. I can have them do certain things, but once they do more than that, like if they start discussing price, or they start discussing certain things, now they're acting as an agent and they can be liable. So because I come from a legal background, even though I'm not an attorney, I understand it.
I think that's your
Exactly.
profession right
Right.
there.
Right. Well, I
Because
get it. I know where the
Because,
exposure is.
right now, to me, I'm like, to be honest, okay?
Yeah.
Brandon, what are you worried about? My God.
Of course.
This deal, anybody will take it.
Of course, but it's
your name is not going to be there. But I totally understand your background is
I'm-
from the
well,
legal
right.
world.
And
Yes.
that's not, and I'm not even just looking for my interest.
I know.
You are first,
You are
Tim,
looking for your
and
profession.
Tim. Well, exactly. This
Right.
is obviously, everybody has
Okay,
bills
I
to pay
got
and
it.
things to do. So yeah.
Sweetie, I don't want you to feel pressure.
No.
Overall, we adore you. You're
Oh,
awesome.
thank you.
It's just that I already have a 2 buyer on the table.
Yeah, you're good.
And you really helped me a lot as
Good.
far as like how do you call that? Get in touch, Alex, with the team.
Right.
Without that connection,
Yeah.
you're really helping Kim too.
Nah, and that's
he is all. He must do something good. In my religion, we believe in reincarnation and Buddhism and good things. Things comes around, goes around, and all that.
right.
He must do something good. This whole transaction, all the good people surrounding him.
Yeah, I agree.
So
And you're doing the right thing, and that's what when you first started sharing with me that your heart says that you and Jose decided that's all I needed to hear. And I don't even think of myself at all. I step out 100% there,
that's why.
and I'm grateful to
so
hear that. That's all I care about.
That's why I don't want you to have any pressure. If
No.
you like a friend, like what we talk about right now, like that.
Thank you.
I'm appreciating, and I will show my way to appreciate you in the end of the transaction. So I don't want it to give you any pressure. I will still
We're good.
use the Benjamin as a transaction coordinator,
Yes.
and I don't want to give you any pressure. But
No,
you
you're
are always our. Let me put it this way: in my realtor phone book, you're number 1 right there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
But I have to be honest with you,
Yeah.
Brendan, because
Yes.
you're so far from me.
Uh-huh.
And
I know.
like Ontario,
Right.
Rancho,
Right.
the two Rancho I share with you. When I'm ready,
Yeah.
I will ask you, see if
Good.
your permission, see if you wanted to take over the listing.
Yeah.
Other than that, I have all local people to
Right.
help me. Yeah.
Okay.
So I hope that you can understand that, because because you, like, for example, you know Ventura County
Right.
the best.
Yeah.
So I kind of knowing that
I get it. You don't have to explain more, Lucy. I understand it. And I was out there this weekend, and it was great. It was a great trip. I mean, it was a good commute. It was almost 2 hours. It was.
Where is that?
I was in Irvine.
You
yeah.
told me about the seminar, right?
Yeah. So did that, and then but on the drive back again, it was almost another 2 hours, and it's a good haul. It's good. I don't know if it's good for 1 or 2%, but it's good. But
Thank you for understanding.
Right.
You're awesome. Yeah.
so
Okay,
it's
sweetie,
there's
so
no
I got
pressure
it.
here.
I got it. I'm so
Yeah.
glad we have this open mic conversation.
No problem, Lucy.
But yes, in the future,
Yeah.
if I need anything as a friend, Brandon, can you
Mhm.
help me there?
Yes.
Okay, but no responsibility.
Not at all. No, we're good. You, Lucy, you
Thank you.
take care of
Thank you so
yourself.
much.
I hope it
Okay.
all works out.
Keep in touch.
We
Okay,
will.
we keep in touch.
You take
Okay,
care.
thank
Bye-bye.
you. Take care. Bye bye.